Welcome everyone to the Quintropolis Season 3 World Tour. This video has been a long time coming. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to finally do another World Tour. The last one was at the conclusion of Season 2 back in 2016. It's been over 6 years, you guys. It's been a busy 6 years for this world. And it's finally time. We have wrapped up Season 3. We've wrapped up the Age of Ender saga. For those of you who don't know, I don't do a Let's Play series with this world. I do something a little different called the Legends of Quintropolis Journal, which I host on the unofficial Minecraft forums. I'll put a link to it in the description. And it's basically a Let's Play, but in literary format. So you can follow all of the progress of this world as we continue to build new and interesting things and uncover many of the world's legends. Over the past 6 years, we have explored some of the storylines and unearthed some of the mysteries lurking beneath the surface of Quintropolis. And that's really been a key theme and a key driver for many of the things that we have actually done in this world. So as we go through this world tour today, I'm going to do my best to highlight some of that lore, but I'm also going to be careful not to spoil certain elements of the storyline. And that's mostly for you guys who maybe you haven't read the journal, but you might be interested in that sort of thing. So I definitely want to give you the opportunity to dive into the storyline. So that's a little bit of a disclaimer for you guys. I'm going to do my best to keep this just a regular world tour without diving too deep into the context of things. We have reached day 7,000. It's a little after 7,000. But that's just because I've been getting the world prepped for download. I am using timestamps to divide the world tour, so if there's a specific build or a section you'd like to skip to, feel free to do so using the description below. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started with this. You are going to start right here in the Quintropolis Welcome Center, which is also the world spawn point. If you die anywhere without setting your spawn, you will spawn on one of these grass blocks right here. And this right here is where any items thrown through the end portal are going to end up. They'll end up right here on this farmland, and there's some hoppers underneath that will collect those items. This post just tells you some of the stuff that you can do on Quintropolis Island, which is the island that we're sitting on right now, and I'm going to tell you a little about the island in a moment. In this world, I do a lot of parkour and arcade games and stuff like that. There's a lot of projects like that in this world, and we are going to check all of those out. These are a couple of the courses you can do here on the island. And you can see this is the start date of Quintropolis. The world was started almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. And you can actually watch the very beginnings of this world. It did start as a Let's Play series on June 12th, 2013. So if you go back on my channel, you can actually see the first 26 episodes of this world. And believe it or not, this, where we're standing right now, is the exact location where we spawned on that date. Over here you have a nice view of the Totem Run, which is one of the parkour courses that we are going to look at. And over here you have a view of the Tropic Fortress, which is the gateway to that course. So let's go ahead and head out of the Welcome Center now. And right here you've got the prep halls. And this is where you're going to go just to get some tools and armor, food, and different things that you might need. Again, this is for if I misplace my spawn point and I spawn back here with nothing. This is just a quick way for me to restock and get things that I need to get back on my feet. A lot of the loot that I get from end cities tends to go in here, so we've just got some iron chest plates and some different things like that. Around the island there are signs as well to further direct you, so we're going to head out now onto the island, and the sun is going down. So this is the coastline, and what you're going to notice immediately is some chunk walls. Because this world was started over 10 years ago, this was before Minecraft 1.7 was released. And Quintropolis Island is unique in the fact that it is actually the only part of this world which was generated before the terrain changes in 1.7. This world was started in 1.5, I believe. You can see a map of the island right here, and if you look closely, you can see the chunk wall that surrounds the island. And it does go all the way around. It's a little, it is a little blocky in some sections. But yeah, so if you were to recreate this world in a version after 1.7, this island would not exist. You've got a couple other maps of certain other sections here, like Stanland, Rainbow Cliffs, North Stonewall, South Megapolis, the Megapolis Peninsula, and Utopia. If you would like to recreate any of these maps, you've got a chest here with some materials that you can do so. So you can create a copy of any of these, which you can use to help guide yourself around. We are going to head over here now to the Tropic Fortress, and I'm going to show you that, and we're going to sleep to get into daytime. So while the Welcome Center is a relatively new development, the Tropic Fortress was built way back in 2014 along with the Totem Run itself. And so this is a very old build. Very primitive design on the inside. There's not a whole lot to it. You can see some more chunk walls over there. But it's mostly just built as a starting point, a lobby, if you will, for Totem Run. This is the bedroom underneath here, and we're just going to go ahead and sleep the night away. If we come out here, you've just got some basic necessities here, nothing crazy, a couple random chests. And this is the start of the parkour course. There are a total of 8 official parkour courses in this world, and all 8 of them offer you a very different play experience. Starlight Library, which we're going to check out later, is going to give you a comprehensive guide to all of the courses and other activities that you can do in this world. So I do encourage you to play the courses. They are designed for your entertainment after all. Totem Run specifically is mostly an aerobics course, but there's also an element of discovery as well. There's a lot of sections where you have to find the exit or find your way out of the foliage. So there is a factor of that, and then of course you've got a tree climb here. The course is very much built into the scenery, which was a goal to the course. I wanted to keep that jungle aspect to it. So we're heading up the road a little bit, and if you follow this road, it's going to take you to the inner circle, but you can also take a railway directly to Starlight headquarters if you just want to head straight there. I want to show you guys the inner circle first, so we are going to follow that road, but just to show you, you've got a cart here, you just hop in and it'll take you directly to Starlight Station, which I'll show you the other end of that a little bit later on. But first we're going to head to the inner circle. So we're going to follow this road down. This road is also a pretty new development, and it was pretty challenging to construct because, as you can see, the foliage is very thick here. Paving a road through here was definitely not the easiest thing to do, but it has been done, and it now connects the inner circle to spawn, which is great. The inner circle is a thriving village on the center of the island, but it never started that way. It actually was built out of nothing. There was nothing here at all because villages do not spawn in the jungle. And so it is now home to the Quintropolis World Council, and there's a lot going on in here. The village is a thriving ecosystem on its own, and you could argue it's like a mini base because you've got everything that you need here. In the center, you have the Enderquin monument, which has the 8 beacons surrounding it. And then, of course, we have the circle going all the way around. We have a strip here with some stuff in it. This is the Inner Circle Produce Market, which just has some basic farms and some villagers in it. We've got some farmers in here. This is Maker's Wellness Center. Maker is our cleric here, who offers a lot. This is actually who I trade most of my zombie flesh with because I get a lot of zombie flesh. I've traded most of it now, but I get a lot of it from our various mob farms. And so it's actually a pretty useful trade to get some emeralds because zombie flesh is not useful for much else. So I keep a lot of other stuff in here, as well as some basic utilities and things like that. And then for new villagers that I introduce by way of zombies, I have materials in here to go ahead and heal them and give them a new post somewhere. Here we have Michelle's sugarcane and paper shop. This is a basic automated sugarcane farm. This is Jock's agricultural shop, and he does in fact have the best prices in town because he is another villager who was purified from a zombie villager. And we've also got Musa here, who is one of the prime traders with Jock, and he has his coal supply here, which is mostly depleted. Little wheat farm here, little cow farm here, and some bone meal. If we head here, this is another railway that you can take to Starlight headquarters, and whenever there aren't any minecarts here, you can just pick one up from here. Up there is the council clubhouse, but before I show you guys that, I do want to show you we do have something a little back here that's kind of hidden. This is another parkour course. This is jump tutorials. This course was created as a tutorial course, so it actually guides you through some skills. If you are new to parkour, that's what this course is designed for. So it actually teaches you a little bit about how jumping mechanics work in this game. You'll learn a lot about speed and how to control your speed and the importance of sneaking through the course. So it's a good training ground to come back to, which will prepare you for some of the bigger courses. Also a very new development. So we're gonna head now into the council clubhouse. This is where the Quintropolis World Council lives. And we've got the 4 members inside. We're gonna go ahead and sleep the night away here. Inside, we've got Staz and Boshtalk, who offer some pretty good books. Boshtalk is my main source of mending, while Staz offers Silk Touch. Arian offers some tools, although I haven't traded too much with her as of the current moment. Ibram is around here somewhere, although I'm not sure where. He does tend to spend a lot of time with Shadrach. Oh, here he is. Nope. In the back of the clubhouse, you have a little balcony, which gives you a nice view of Emerald Hills, which is currently undeveloped, but in the future, I'll be creating some roads back there as well. So right now we are looking south. This is the southern coast of the island, and you can see the jungle there and the hills there. So it gives you a nice view of the scenery. We've got Shadrach's farming plot here, and I've listed his suspicious stew options so that you know exactly what he trades. We've got a honey house, which has some bees in it. This is a little bee farm, and it's also the only one in this world. There is technically a bee farm at Starlight headquarters, but it is mostly just there for novelty as of right now. So you can do your storage here. And beyond that, there's not really anything else in the inner circle, but you can see this area. I do want to build like a little welcome house and maybe some other stuff. All right, so with that done, I'm going to take you guys over to Starlight headquarters. This is my primary base, and it is massive. This is going to be the bulk of the entire tour right here. So we're going to go ahead and hop on this. When you first arrive at Starlight headquarters, you are either going to be at the Inner Circle or the Quintropolis Welcome Center pod. The only other one that's here that's actually built is going to be this one, which is going to take you to Fall Damage. That is another parkour course we're going to take a look at. When you take the Great Northern Railway, you will end up in a desert temple like this one. And what you're going to want to do from here is exit the temple and head north, and you're going to see there's Fall Damage right there. This is one of the other parkour courses in this world, and as you can see, it's a very different kind of course. It probably gets the record for shortest parkour course, but it is still a little bit of a challenge because you have to navigate your way through the air and avoid the obstacles all the way at the bottom. There is a bed at the top that you're going to want to make sure you set as your respawn point because it is highly likely that you will die several times. The drop does extend all the way down to bedrock, so there are indeed a lot of obstacles for you to dodge. This is another very old course. I believe this was built in the summer of 2015. So very old, no beacons or anything. This was an old-fashioned chunk harvest, and I just created a course here in its place. Also, I just want to mention that throughout our tour of Starlight, my frames might drop at certain parts, and that's because this is a huge base with a lot going on. Starlight Station is the, as the name might suggest, the transport hub for everywhere else in the base and the world. There are a couple features of the station. These are the lights, which you can turn off. In here, you have the locks for each of the individual rail lines. So you'll notice that some of them are actually off, like this one, whereas these two are enabled. It's mapped to the layout of this. So if I flip this switch, it's going to enable this railway, for example. And then likewise, if I turn these off, which they are on by default, it will disable these railway lines. If we head upstairs, this is going to take you to the surface hub, which has some random functionality like this here, just blocks this. Starlight Station is a very old build. It was originally built in 2013, so it has some old legacy features that don't really do much. Case in point, this is just another security gate here, and then this one turns that light off. How fun, right? If we head out the front, we are now in Starlight headquarters, and I'm gonna take a little step back so you can actually get a good view of the base, and we're gonna do a quick overview of everything that you see here. Starlight headquarters is my primary base. It is the center of resource production in this world. It connects every other part of the world together. This is where everything started. The development cycle of this base is truly insane. This is actually version 3.0 of the base, and if you're interested in a deep dive of this base's history, first of all, the original Let's Play series is going to show you the very humble beginnings of the base here at Starlight Castle. This castle that you're looking at, this is Starlight Castle. This used to be a cobblestone box, to put things into perspective. A cobblestone box that you can actually see being built in the original video series from 2013. To see how it has evolved from that into a sprawling metropolis, I just think is really magnificent. And if you head to the journal in the description, take a look at session 289. That's really going to compare the different versions of the base if you're interested in that sort of thing. And the base itself is divided into 3 distinct factions. Everything to the right of the castle is considered the Plaza faction, and this faction includes the Nether Temple, which you can see right there, Starlight Playground, which is in front of it, Starlight Station, which we just were, the Treetop Hammock, right there, Buzz Blast, which is the artificial tulip that you can see there. Then you have the Starlight faction here in the center, which comprises the Starlight Castle and the Power Museum. The Power Museum here is the modular and redstone center of the base. I'm going to explain a little bit of what that means in a minute. In front, we have the Lapis Hall of Fame. This is mostly a showcase for the different builds here at Starlight and when they were completed. If you follow this long path, it's going to take you to the Starlight Solace Center over here. And then everything to the left of the Power Museum is the Starlight Outback faction. This entire faction is brand new to the base. If you watched the previous world tour, it doesn't even exist. You have the Farmlands here. Obviously, the major centerpiece of the Outback is Starlight Treehouse right there. You have the Iron Farm here in front, the Ender Tower to the left of that. When we check out Starlight Library a little bit later, you're going to see there's a lot of other stuff in this base that you can do. So it is a hub of entertainment as well as a hub of resource production. Given these things, I do not consider Starlight to be simply a survival base any longer, but rather a canvas of unlimited creative potential. And this extends just to the infrastructure of the base as well. I mentioned earlier that the Power Museum was the modular and redstone center of the base, but what exactly does that mean? Well, Starlight HQ is built a little differently than a normal survival base. It is what I would call a modular base, and what this means is that all of the individual components of the base are connected together into a central redstone unit, and from that central unit, you can then change the way that each of those independent parts of the base behave. Within this type of system, you can actually customize the degree of automation that occurs in the base, and furthermore, you can control how that automation occurs. For example, you could instruct the base's subway system to automate the brewing of potions within the potion brewing system, or you could instruct the iron farm to do that, or you can instruct this pressure plate to do that, or if you want, you can plug all of those in at the same time. Then once I get enough potions by doing that, I can disable all of those links, start with a clean slate, and I don't know, let's say I want to use the villager run crop farms to harvest my cactus, for example. I can literally do anything that I want and change it at any time. And that is the basis for what version 3.0 of the base is all about. This infrastructure did not exist prior to Season 3. We're going to start here at Starlight Playground. This is a very old development, and it's actually the first thing that I built when I was getting into parkour, the idea of parkour. And it just has some little areas in here that you can do some practice parkour, as well as the crash course, which is an official parkour course that you can do as well. It was from that moment that I realized I really enjoyed building parkour courses and various arcade games. Continuing down into the plaza, I want to show you guys this area first. You have the plaza bank here and the Nether temple, and this is obviously where you're going to go to connect to the rest of the world. And once you go into here, you've got a storage room for all of the different nether blocks, and I've got nether brick on this side and nether rack on this side here. And out here, we've got the nether portal. This is going to take you to the Nether Hub that connects to the rest of the world. So I think I'll just show that later once we have completed our tour of the base here. If you go down here, we have a couple things. This is a transport pod that where you can put items in and then send it off to the Starlight Resources facility to collect those items later, and vice versa. And I'll show you the other end of that later. If you follow this tunnel, it's going to take you back into Starlight Station right here. If you follow this up, you're going to see we are right back into the station. And this is the subway that I mentioned earlier. You have two subway lines here, the blue line and the red line. So I'll give you an introduction to that. Red line will take you from Starlight Station to the tangent floor of the Power Museum, and then to Starlight Treehouse. So all you have to do is hop in this and press that button, and it'll send you off. And you can see how it works here. And that actually activates every other station simultaneously. So in a minute, you're going to see the next cart is going to show up here, and it's going to land here. And this is the way that the subway works. It activates every station at the same time. And here you can see it coming in. And blue line is the same way. So let's head over to the blue line. And this is going to take you from here to Enderquin Station, which is actually directly beneath us. And then over to Redstone Room. And then over to Starlight Outback. Also, I realize I totally forgot to break down the acronym. This stands for Starlight Transit Authority System, or STAS for short. All right, we are back out here in the plaza, so I'm going to show you a couple other things over here. This area is mostly undeveloped for right now. What you're looking at here is one of the arcade games that you can play, which is called Aim High, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. This is probably the most isolated part of the base. It's literally just a garden, but it's fully lit, and it has a little melon farm in here. What's interesting, though, is that this garden was built a very long time ago, I think in 2015. It's almost like by building this orchard, I foretold the future of this base becoming so intricate and busy, because it's even more necessary than ever, because it's just a little oasis where you can kind of step away from all that and be out in nature a little bit. Up top, this is the spectrometer, which is a measure of the daylight level outside, and this is also a plugin. So this is going to be our first introduction to some of those modular features. In the base, there are two types of plugin interfaces for the modular functions: generators and modifiers. Generators are what you're going to use to actually create core functions. Modifiers, such as spectrometer here, are what you'll use to modify those functions. Basically what this does is it can control whether or not modular activity that we hook up works during the day or during the night. So whatever links that we set up between different modular processes, they're only going to work during the day. And then when night falls, it's going to become quiet. If you invert this, it'll be the other way around. Modular activity will only work during the night and shut down during the day. Moving on down, I'm taking you guys over into this little plaza area, which has a couple things. This is where the old horse stables used to be, but excuse me, you are not welcome here, my guy. If you go around here, this is going to take you down into Starlight Arcade, which is, as its name suggests, you can see we've got some animations going on above here. And so the way this works is you'll dispense a token from the token machine, and then you can pick which game that you want to play. There's 2 games right now that you can play, Aim High and Color Conundrum. I'm currently working on a 3rd game, which I wanted to have done for this download, but unfortunately it is not. Color Conundrum, very old game, and then Aim High, they're both actually pretty old. I think I built them both in 2016. Admittedly, Color Conundrum doesn't really work so well anymore because they changed the mechanic where you don't actually get squished into blocks anymore. You'll just go into a crawl state. And that was a big factor for how Color Conundrum worked, was getting squished into the blocks. But Aim High still works pretty well. You need a bow and arrows, a bow and some arrows to play it. So just to demonstrate this here, you'll throw a token in. It'll let you in. And now you have to actually beat the game in order to get out. So pressing this will start the game. And then what you have to do is you have to hit all the buttons. And so if I hit a button here, you can see it lights up. So you have to get all the buttons hit. Alright, you can see I just got all the lights hit there, and bam, I have won. And that's it. This, by the way, is a railway to the mob processing hub. This is very old, and it's not really something I use anymore, but it is something that I used to use a little back in an earlier era of this world. So you can kind of consider this to be a historical feature. This is the secret switch. It doesn't do anything. Don't think that it will. You will drive yourself crazy. This little concoction is called Buzz Blast, and it is a parkour course. Part of the fun of this course is actually figuring out how it starts. It's a pretty easy course, but there is a sacred relic hidden inside for those of you who manage to complete it. We are going to head down the back. This is Starlight Trampoline here, and I'm going to show you a couple things back here. This is the fishing shack. This was very old. This was built a long time ago, and I don't even use it anymore, but you can even probably tell it's a very old build. This is what I used to use for a lot of fishing that I did out here. I've got some fishing rods, and any fish that I would get, I would throw in here. And then there's a hopper chain that extends all the way under the water. What you're looking at here, this is the Aqua Lounge, and from inside there you can actually call a minecart, because anything you catch in here is stored in the Aqua Lounge. And what I hope you can notice here is that I always look for ways to keep the older builds relevant. So by connecting it with the Aqua Lounge here, which is a newer build, I maintain some usability for the fishing shack. Starlight Castle is the most obvious example of this because it has been completely rebuilt from the previous world tour. If you watch the previous tour, you probably don't even recognize it. Heading around the back, you get a different view of the base here, and this is going to take you into Starlight Castle. This is the back entrance here. This here is the fireworks hub, and I'll show you this. If you press this and then unlock this, this is actually going to start the fireworks display out in the bay here. I mean, I can hear them. I don't know if mechanics have changed or if other things in the base have caused the particle limit to be exceeded. But if you go check out the previous world tour, session 200, at the very end of that, I do a full display of the fireworks so you can see it in all of its glory. It's pretty cool when it actually works. And of course, fireworks have another use now, which is being used with the Elytra to propel flight. So this entire hub is full of materials that you need to make the fireworks. So I've imported all kinds of paper and gunpowder. And you can see we're now at the other end of that. Back here in the plaza, we've got the donkey pen here, which is currently locked, which prevents him from getting out. So if I go in here, you can see that he's not able to get out. If you press this, that'll unlock it, and now you can get out. Behind the donkey pen is our mule pen. We have a single mule, this guy right here, and if you don't know, the way that you get a mule is by breeding a horse with a donkey, and that's what we have here. Fun fact for you guys, this was the very first project that I did in Season 2 back in 2014, was to build this little extension. Go ahead and lock that back up. We have the archery alley here. This is actually the oldest game-based build that I have in this world. This was built in December of 2013. Even back then, when I was really playing Survival of the Fittest, I wanted very much to have a world that was entertaining. So if we head down here, you can see the game. So the archery alley works by trying to hit that button. A firework will shoot up. In Starlight Library, there's actually a couple books that can extend the usefulness of this because there's actually multiple different ways to play. That book, by the way, is another example of how a very old build like this maintains some value. So that's pretty much it for Starlight Plaza. I am gonna head into Starlight Castle now and show you that. So this is a doorway that you can open or close. Starlight Castle is the centerpiece of the base, and again, if you watched the previous world tour, you will not even recognize it, but it is the same place. It's just that it's been completely torn down and rebuilt with purpur, very much in a style reminiscent of an end city, but I have tried to keep it pretty unique. In the center here, this is where we get all of these powers here from the beacons, and this extends all the way up. And here we have the front entrance to the Starlight as well, which you can enter from the road. So this is the road that extends from the plaza. You can come down and enter from down here. This is a hidden little feature. If the front door is locked, which I'm gonna show you how to do, you can throw gold nuggets into here and that'll temporarily unlock it so that you can get in. This is a jukebox station full of some music discs, and then if we head through here, you can access the Lapis Hall of Fame, which again shows you the current version and all of the builds through Starlight HQ and when they were first completed. Note that this doesn't account for renovations, such as, for example, Starlight Castle's obvious renovation. It was still originally built in 2013, so the renovation itself isn't accounted for, just the prime build. Also, this doorway is a shortcut into the Power Museum, so just kind of remember this for later. We're gonna link back up here in a bit. Next, I'm gonna show you some of the features on the ground floor here. So right here you have the transport spire, which is a way that you can get to the other floors of the castle. And likewise, you can drop down from other floors in the castle as well. The transport spire is only going to take you to the other 2 floors on the base level. If you want to get to the other observatories that you saw from the outside, you're going to need to take the lifeline here in the center. From any of those main floors, you can jump off here onto the jump pads. These are slime blocks, and you can do a little bouncing if you wish. Out here, you have the back entrance, which you press this button to exit. I'll go ahead and show you this now because right now I don't have a pathway built, but this is going to take you into the Outback. You can see that this is primed for future development. But this is where you will insert all your potion brewing ingredients. Just put any potion brewing ingredients in here and it'll automatically sort them out and stock them where they belong. This right here is the boat entrance to Starlight Castle, which I don't actually use anymore. It's a legacy feature. If you guys see that escape hatch up there, that's what I used to use to exit Starlight. There's a bunch of boats up there. You would enter through here and hoppers would collect the boat. And this tower right here, it's hard to see now. It's built out of black concrete, but it's right here. That tower is for a minecart that will take the boats all the way back up to the escape hatch. And again, this is an old feature, but I wanted to keep it as a way to kind of preserve that history. This over here is the entrance to the Starlight Resources facility. You can jump down and get to that. Here it is. We're not going to go down there just yet, but this is one of two main entrances into the facility that I use if I do not use Stas, because Stas actually has two subway stations inside this facility. To get back upstairs, you'll head into this slime block launcher, and you have to kind of move to the left as you see, but it'll take you back here into Starlight Room. To get to Starlight Room, you can head down this staircase, and it's going to take you around. And this is the beacon. It's a total flex built out of diamond blocks, as you can see. This is another entrance to the Power Museum. This is the boat entrance we just looked at. So it's run by comparators. So once they detect that a boat has entered, it will automatically take it up the tower and restock the escape hatch. This is my colorful wardrobe. So you can go in here and just select an outfit if you want to, put something on. These chests here are for random things, like if I'm working on a big project and I just need a space to dump off all those materials for a temporary amount of time. Typically what I'll do is I'll just assign a use for this chest. So for here I've dubbed it Modular System, and at the time you'll see it's empty now, but this used to be where I dumped like stuff that I was working on or materials that I needed for that particular project. So the purposes for these chests actually change all the time depending on the project I'm doing. So they're just random spaces for me to be able to drop items off and come back to them at a later time. And I also keep a bunch of ladders here for some reason. In the center of this room is the Adventure Arsenal. This is where I keep all of my high-level tools and weaponry. You see I've got all of my picks here, and I've got a bunch of swords in here, shovels, axes, crossbows, and bows. Down here I've got my golden apple and carrot storage, tridents here, and you can see my arrows and shields. And I have an entire arsenal for tipped arrows. One is notably missing at the moment. That would be arrows of the Turtle Master, because I simply haven't acquired those as of yet. I am a completionist, and this tipped arrow seller is proof of that, because these are not exactly the most useful items in the game. There's actually a course in this world that utilizes tipped arrows, so I'm very excited to show you guys that a little bit later. And we got a couple other materials, enchanting room here, and this is some armor that I am working on, so I'm not entirely happy with the enchantments on some of these, or like this one's fine, but I like to complete a whole set, and then once the set is completed, I move it to the Hall of Armor, which is right upstairs, and stuff in here is to be enchanted or improved. So again, if I'm not quite happy with these enchantments, I keep the items in here where I can then add on to it or change it completely. Here I've got some books, and if we head over here, this is the enchanted library where I keep all enchanted books for various different enchantments. So here's fortune, fire protection, for example. Combo books I put in these chests. So this is any book that has more than one enchantment on it. So it has 2 or more enchantments. So all the books in these chests, it only is that one enchantment. So you know exactly what you're getting. So there is another pathway down. First, I want to show you guys this. This is another transport pod similar to the one we saw in the Nether Temple. So again, this connects down to the resources facility. So if I want to transport items between here and there, I can do so with this pod. And it's actually a two-way call system. So if you want to move items down, but the minecart is not here, you just push this button, and it's actually going to call it from the other end. And in a minute, you're going to see it show up here. And this call system is installed on both this pod as well as the one at the Nether Temple. But later on, you're going to see there's another transport pod over at Starlight Treehouse. It currently does not have a two-way call system set up. But you can see now we can fill it with whatever items we want and send it downstairs. If we go down here, this is where I keep my different gold and chainmail storage. Further on down, this is the Aqua Lounge entrance hall. This will take you all the way into the Aqua Lounge. If you follow this up, it'll take you to the fireworks hub. So we're gonna head now into the lounge. And like at Starlight Arcade, there's a little tripwire at the entrance that has some animated lights. If those bother your rates too much, as they do for me right now, you can just turn it off there. The Aqua Lounge is one of my favorite builds in the base because it's submerged completely underwater, and it has a lot of features that are designed for underwater living. You've actually got everything you need to survive underwater down here, and that starts here with the bar. The bar has some focused features here. The potion brewer can brew either water brewing or night vision. So this is the selector for which one you want to brew, and then you just push this, and it'll start that process here of brewing that potion. It's very basic. It only brews the base potion. There's no modifiers or anything like that, but it'll pull those potions out once we have completed the brew and store them in the storage chamber, which is around the corner. And then right here we have a furnace. So you can use this to cook some fish that you get, or anything else that you might want to cook. This is a cold storage for that. This here takes you into the back, so you can access some of the wiring. I'm gonna come back to this feature in a moment, but first we're gonna move on for now. Here we have a nice view of the bay. I've added some coral. Recall that this island was generated back in 1.5, so there is no naturally generated ocean scenery. So I've done my best to add a little bit here to kind of spice up things a little bit. If we head here, this is the snow lounge. You have another bed here that you can sleep in, which we're gonna go ahead and do, I guess. Then next to that, this is a closet, which has some armor sets which are catered for underwater travel. If we go down here, we have a little rabbit farm here, which kind of works, but it's not very efficient. And this is where the potions are stored from earlier. I will show you the rabbit farm. Basically the way it works is you go up here, and this used to work. It used to be a carrot farm. In the past, putting a slab here would actually prevent light from getting in. So when you would put carrot seeds down, they would automatically uproot. And that's how the farm would work. Now, as you can see, it doesn't work because light gets through there. So I usually have to import carrots in. So the way this works is you press this, you can breed the rabbits here, press that, and the rabbits are going to fall through that fence post there. Once they grow up, what you'll do is you'll actually press this trapdoor, and that's gonna allow you to sneak underneath. You can see that I have a path block here. Reach into this chest and grab this sword that's in here. And what you'll actually do is you'll use that to go ahead and harvest the drops. Obviously, if you kill a baby rabbit, you get nothing. You'll also notice that it leaves some of the rabbit uncooked. So what I'll do here is I'll take some of this back to the bar area, and this is what the furnace is for. So you can throw these items in. Over here we have a sea pickle farm. So you just push this and it'll make a whole bunch, as you can see here. Heading over here to the other side, we have some item frames here. This was I originally had an idea to create like a little game with these, because as you guys may know, you can use the position of an item frame to change the comparator output signal. So I was originally going to create a puzzle with this, but I have not yet expanded on that idea, but it is something that I may want to do down the road. In here, you've got a couple different rooms. I'm going to start here at the pantry. If you guys remember earlier, there was a minecart railway that connected from the fishing shack. Well, this is actually where it leads to. So what you can do is press this button. It will call the minecart from over there, so you can hear it above. So any items that are currently over there, you can hear that it actually just left, and that's because it's empty at the moment. So it automatically detects whether there are any items in there, and once the minecart has been emptied, it'll automatically head back. So any fish that we catch will be automatically stored in this pantry. So we've got some fish here and a little bit of glass and just some other things like kelp. There's a lot of kelp here, and that's because, you guessed it, there is a kelp farm next door. It's very small, but that's because kelp grows pretty fast and I don't really need it that much. And as you can see, it's still produced more than enough at the moment. I mean, it produces a lot. And this button here is what calls the minecart from here. So there's a minecart underneath this. And this kelp farm actually works by smelting this side into dried kelp and then keeping this side just as regular kelp. So this way you get an equal amount of both. So if you press that, it takes that minecart and sends it upstairs. And this is actually the third call system that stocks the pantry. So if you press this, that minecart will take all the items from that furnace and send them into the pantry here. At the moment, there is not a dedicated chest for Rabbit, so those items, as you can see, will just end up right here in the final chest. So there's definitely some room for improvement here. But yeah, I usually just grab these anyway and take them back to the rabbit farm just to keep things organized. Next, if we head out here, we are gonna be at the tree dome. So once you have your proper attire and water breathing potions, you can actually hop on one of these and head out into the bay. Because if you guys don't know, skeleton horses are unique in that you can ride them underwater. So the way that you'll do this is you'll head out and you want to make sure that you grab this emerald down here. And in previous versions, it would actually float up, but it no longer does. This emerald is your key to getting back into the Aqua Lounge. So you can either come out here just by yourself or hop on a horse. And you can see that you can actually ride your horse down here, which is pretty cool. So we'll throw this back in. We'll enter. We're gonna hop off that. There is a conduit right above here, as you can see. So you do have conduit power all around the bay area. Heading into the tree dome. This is really just a little aesthetic piece with a tiny, tiny little treehouse in here with some random items. Not really useful. Again, it's mostly just here just for the sake of being here. I just wanted to build one of these. So that's the Aqua Lounge. It really is its own little ecosystem here at Starlight. And it's a build that I do gradually add on to over time, you know, such as the coral little coral reef that was added out here once that was actually introduced into the game, once those coral blocks were introduced. As I've said before, this is one of my favorite parts of the base, and I do have some other plans for how I can continue to expand it in the future. All right, we are gonna head back now up through Starlight, and I'm gonna show you guys some of the upper floors now. First, I'm gonna go up using the transport spire, so that way I can show you the Power Museum entrance. There's a little ledge here with the main entrance to the Power Museum right here that you can also close. This is technically a legacy feature that I didn't want to completely remove, because in an old version of Starlight Castle, what we're standing on was actually part of the original second floor. The second floor, there used to be another whole separate floor that occupied this space, which has been completely demolished. But I wanted to keep this entrance because I thought it was still a convenient way to access the Power Museum. So I just kept this little ledge here, and now you can totally use this to enter the Power Museum from here. And I guess I'll go ahead and just show you this part of the Power Museum, this is a major structure that extends way far underground, but here on the surface, it's mostly just for aesthetics. There used to be a few different other things here, such as a zombie tower. There is a zombie spawner directly underneath here that used to be the first XP farm in this world. And originally, it was built as a crusher-based XP farm underground, before I then turned it into a fall damage-based farm with a giant tower right here in the front, and it ended right here. This has since been removed. What's also been removed are the two towers that were outside here, one of which was an enchantment tower, and the other which was an alchemy tower for potion brewing. All three of those features proved to be very obsolete, so I destroyed them. What's left here is a nice little fountain in front, and the Alchemy Dome, which is kind of a viewing area now just for the darkroom mob spawner. The Alchemy Dome is technically also an obsolete feature, however, because its name is derived from the fact that it used to be where I brew potions. All of these clay blocks were lined with potion brewers, and if we go under here, this area, which has now been vacated, used to house all of my potion brewing ingredients. This used to be a completely manual process. As you guys may know, potion brewing in this game is extremely tedious and boring, and I needed a real solution to that problem. And that's when the automated potion brewer, which is now connected very well into the modular system, came about, and I'm very excited to show you guys how that works a little bit later. If you take this pathway all the way over, that's going to take you to the Starlight Solace Center, which I guess I'll go ahead and show you now because it doesn't really connect to anything else in the base. But this is actually a work in progress at the moment. This is intended just to be a zen area away from all of the hustle and bustle. Same purpose as the orchard on the other side of the base, but I kind of have plans to turn this into a second, more spread out Starlight Arcade, because as you can see, there is a lot of undeveloped area out here, so there's just a lot more room. Starlight Arcade is built in a space where there's really just not a lot of room for expansion. The Solace Center is being developed as a much larger version of that, where I'm gonna be building some other different types of arcade games that you can play. And there is one thing you can do over here. This is called the Labyrinth. If you guys have ever done a real world labyrinth, it literally is just a pathway where you walk through and reflect on your life, or whatever that you'd like to reflect on. And you just walk through the path all the way until you get to the center, and then you follow the path back out. That's all this is. We are now going to head back into Starlight Castle because I do want to continue with the original sequence of the tour. And before we head downstairs, because like I said, the Power Museum extends well underground, we're first going to check out the higher floors of Starlight Castle. A lot of the features on these higher floors are legacy features, which is to say that they were very useful back in the early stages of this world, but they no longer are. For example, this room no longer actually has a purpose, but these windows here used to be open, so you would come out here with your bow and you could fire at mobs that spawned outside the base. There used to be a little balcony out here that you could do that for. It was called the range balcony. No longer exists. This room is the lookout room. It's mostly just for aesthetics. There's a little jukebox here and a little lookout. Tiny balcony here, and that's pretty much it. There's an anvil right here. In here is the low-level enchanting room. This is when, back during the Iron Age, I just wanted to have basic enchantments on the items, but I didn't need like the full 30 level, high level enchantment. So I would take all my iron tools and just throw like a 1 level enchantment on them. I remember using this room a lot in the early game, and I wanted to preserve it, so that's the reason that I haven't gotten rid of it. So it's just kind of a reminder of that history. Even though I've completely rebuilt the room out of these new purpur and quartz materials, the original look and style of the room has stayed the same. Similarly, we have the disintegrator here, which this was actually where I used to throw all of that old zombie flesh that I didn't want. So I've kept it here mostly for historical purposes, but again, I don't really use this anymore. Back here is the Starlight Observatory, which is a nice little observatory you can use to view the plaza out here. If we head to the back, this is another legacy room. This has nothing in it except a painting, but this used to be where I held all my rails and minecarts. I don't remember why. It doesn't make any sense at all, which is probably why I nixed that idea, but that's what it used to be. The main attraction here on the second floor is Starlight Library, which I've mentioned a few times. This is going to be your main resource for a lot of the guides for Quintropolis, as well as all of the book-based games that you can play here at the base. And this is also where all of the short stories and Quintropolis tales are held. So you can access it through these prismarine stairs, and through the library, you'll see that all the books are separated by type. So here you have, for example, some encyclopedias, and here's some joke books. These are some books full of dad jokes. This chest is where all the quest books and games are located. If you head back here, this is the very original enchanting room that I used. And these are the short stories. These short stories all have significance in the lore, back in the lore and the mythology of Quintropolis, and many of them are featured throughout the journal. So here you can actually read them in detail. Finally, over here are some guides to Quintropolis. So that's the Starlight Library, and the library together with the Adventure Arsenal are the two most dominant features of Starlight Castle that I still actively engage with. We're gonna head up now to the third floor, and again, these are mostly legacy features, but there's some cool stuff to check out. We have first the lounge floor out here, which again, this was an old project that I originally built mostly just to have something interesting, a different shape, if you will, coming out from the castle, because the castle used to be very square, so I wanted to have some interest to that. This used to be the location of both my cobblestone and stone generators, but as you can imagine, this was a very inconvenient location for those. I did use them way back in the early game, but they became obsolete very quickly, so I ultimately just removed them. In the future, I may turn this into something, but it's not going to be anything particularly useful. It might just be another novelty feature, kind of like Starlight Library is. In the transport center here, we do have a map of Starlight headquarters, so you can kind of visualize the base a little better here with this. And then next to that is the escape hatch we looked at earlier. So I'm going to demonstrate how this works. Basically, when you step on this, it'll dispense a boat, and I'm not going to jump out now, but you would just put the boat in and you would ride it out, except that it looks like now you're just going to land on the roof. So yeah, here you can tell it's an old feature because it really doesn't work anymore, at least not the way that it was originally intended. If you go up this staircase here, it's going to take you to the roof. This is the 4-square courtyard, and again, this is another little game that was designed with multiplayer in mind. This was a game that I used to play a lot as a kid in school, and that book in the library is going to give you the full rundown of the rules and how to play it. But basically, you have a person stand in each of these squares, and the goal is to hit that person with an arrow. So you would shoot an arrow into the square, and there's a little practice that goes with this. And the goal is that you would get hit by that arrow. Again, as you guys can see, there's just a ton of little novelty features scattered throughout the base because the goal was always to make the base as entertaining as possible, and that's kind of what we have here. So that's the drop tower. I didn't have the intention of just jumping out, but now you can see that this is another means of getting to the bottom. We have all those colored observatories you saw from the outside. These observatories, because of their inconvenient location, they're not really used for anything practical. They're mostly aesthetic. So I'm just going to briefly show you them here. This is the Redstone Observatory. This one here is the 360 bedroom. A long time ago, this was the only bedroom in this world. It was my main bedroom. So it does have some historical value. It was also the first of the 4 observatories originally built here. This is called the Wind Point, and it's called such because it's located at Y128, which is the level at which clouds are located. We finally have this observatory, which I don't even think has a name, but if you go a little higher, this is when we have the great balcony that gives you unparalleled views of the entire base and beyond from anywhere. And this is possible because of the way that this fence post system is utilized. So you can actually walk out and you have such a wide field of view that you would not get from a simple glass-based observatory like what you get here. You can see the field of view is very restricted, and I didn't like that. So I wanted the ability to see as much of the base as possible. And finally, getting to the very top is the glass dome, and there's an interesting story for this. And as you can see here, it's just a glass dome. This was designed with PvP in mind. When I first built it, I always imagined this would be the perfect location for a proper, I guess, PvP battle. Of course, I never actually did anything with that because this is a single-player survival world. And from here, we can very easily just drop down to the bottom. And we are back at the bottom. Alright guys, well that wraps up Starlight Castle. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, before we head into the Outback, we are now going to dive underground, and I'm going to show you the Power Museum as well as the Starlight Resources facility. In doing this, I think we are going to go ahead and start with the Starlight Room entrance here. And you can see how the aesthetic style changes going into the Power Museum. So first things first, we have the Hall of Armor over here, and this is where I display a lot of my finished armor sets, although the irony of me saying that is that several of these are not finished. And I think that's because I pulled, yeah, it looks like I actually pulled the chest plate from this one and then the remaining pieces from this one and used it as my main armor set, which is now in my ender chest. This is that original zombie dungeon. This has been transformed several times. It was 2 different types of XP farms, and then it became a villager purifier, which I don't think works anymore because I think they changed it to where zombie villagers no longer spawn from a spawner. I could be wrong on that, but basically what you would do is to turn it on, you'd press this. Oh, you know what? I don't think it actually works at all anymore because, again, with the light infiltration thing here, this also utilized the fact that in a previous version of Minecraft, light would not be able to get through a half block area. So yeah, this actually doesn't even work at all anymore. But what would happen is they would spawn in here, and if you found one that was a zombie villager, you'd press this button to hold that, and then you would unleash them. And here you can see that all of the other ones would be dropped down below, but this one would not. And so what would happen is, since this is in kill chamber mode, they would all be dropped into lava. You can see the lava under there. Then what you would do is you would swap this to water cycle. That covers up the lava and turns it into a collection chamber. So from that point, you would open the guy that was your zombie villager, and it would take him into an area, which is out here. So we'll head out here. And by the way, this is a little entrance also into the Hall of Armor from outside. The area that it would take the villagers to, it no longer actually exists because I covered it up because obviously it doesn't work anymore. But I just want to show you where it was. It was out here somewhere. There was like a little hub area here where the villagers would come to, and then you would give them a potion of weakness and a golden apple, and then they would become villagers. And I only used it once or twice, but it did work for a little bit until they broke it. Oh yeah, did I mention it no longer works? Continuing along this way, we have the Dropbox, and this is actually one of the 2 generator plugins for the modular system. Basically, this is a storage system for large chunks of items like cobblestone and stone, but it uses those different items to control different functions or farms in the base. So once we get down to where that storage area is, I'll talk a little bit more about what specifically it can control, what you can have it do. Over this way is the secret entrance into the Power Museum. And this is really old, actually. It looks like I didn't even update the lighting. You can see it's located in this little pond out here. And you would just jump in here with a bow, and you fire an arrow into that, and there you go, you just enter. It's a secret entrance though, so don't tell anyone. Now, if we head along here, we're in the powerhouse chamber. This stairwell is gonna take you to the tangent floor, which is right there. And then if you take it all the way down, that is the Starlight Resources facility. We're gonna head down there in a moment. First, let me show you the lobby. This, by the way, is the part that connects to Starlight Castle that we looked at earlier. If you go through this door, you'll be out front, as you can see here. And then this button right here is the lock for the front door that I showed you earlier. So if you want to lock the front door, you just press that, and then you can use gold nuggets to temporarily unlock it to let you inside. Alright, so now we're going to head down here, still in the powerhouse chamber here. I'm going to show you guys the multi-purpose mob farm. There's a lot of functions of this. This is a door, by the way. And so this loops around and connects back to Starlight Room. And this was one of the first major redstone projects I did in this world. And it has received a huge number of updates ever since its original conception. So there's a ton of different features to this guy. First of all, I'm going to open this up, and as we head down here, you'll be able to see that mobs fall all the way to the bottom. But this wasn't originally the case. In fact, these fence gates used to be original hoppers, and those hoppers would have connected to, where the hopper chain is that connects to the storage room. But I was dissatisfied with the fact that a lot of the time mobs with armor and witches would not die. And that's why I extended this to now account for witches. So witches who spawn in here will now die, and their drops will be collected in the chamber. Now you'll notice that some mobs still do not die, and I'm going to show you how to deal with that a little bit later. If you want to turn this into an XP farm, you can close this and then press this button, which will now turn this into a one-hit kill XP farm. You do gotta be careful though, because creepers are a thing here. But if you stand at just the right spot, you can deal with these guys, except for maybe witches. So you probably want to go ahead and kill these. As you can see, you can also use this as a music disc farm if you stand right here. You can use a skeleton to shoot some of those creepers, and it's going to allow you to accrue music discs. Super fun, by the way. For these drops here, you can press this, which is going to allow them to float on out of there. You can see there was a little sequence of events that happened there that allowed some of those drops to get through. Now, I don't know if it was a Minecraft version that broke this, or if it's just the fact that these are fence gates, but now they tend to get, some of them, the drops will get stuck here on these stairs. But it never used to be that way, so I'm not sure exactly when that happened. You may have noticed that there are dispensers along the wall here, and that's so that we can get rid of all the mobs in the chamber in an instant by pressing this. And that kills all the guys in there. Obviously, for mobs that are on the staircase here, it's not going to kill those. But again, you can just one-hit kill them very easily. But I'll show you again, there's a witch. And he dies as well. Oh, and the fence posts that are there can also be closed if you press this button. So that closes the fence posts, so the mobs are still actually going to die, as you can see. this was originally the bottom of the farm, so they are still going to die. But it's going to collect the mobs here instead of having them fall all the way down there. The disadvantage to this, as you can see, is that some of the drops do stay on top of the fence posts here. So you have to open those to get them to fall through. But the advantage is that you can then use the lava kill chamber here to continue to burn. So as you can see, like right here, like this guy didn't die. So you can click this and you can take care of those guys that just stay in there. I should note that that lava kill chamber is not controlled by this button. It doesn't impact that. And maybe it should, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. It wouldn't be much effort to actually wire it up to that one. The way that you actually activate those dispensers, though, to kill those guys is through the use of a modular plugin. And we're actually going to see that in a little bit. These other levers here are locks for the bottom and the top gates respectively. And then this is an arrow kill unit. Here you can see I can use it as a music disc farm a little bit if I want, pretty easily actually. You can use this, if you push this button, it'll deal with all the guys that fall through. This last lever is a gate for this room. And this was actually useful back in the early days of this world when I would allow this farm to go AFK overnight and I wanted to be absolutely sure that nothing would kill me. I would hide myself in here and put this gate up. Speaking of this room, this is the original farm hub. These were some of the first automatic farms that I built in this world, and while I don't use them anymore, they're still plenty useful. You grab some seeds, you can do either wheat, carrot, or potato, and I can't remember, but I believe that it was Ether who came up with this design. And you just stand on this, and you have to place it, you can see you have to place it at the right moment. And the farmlands, by the way, are just the manual farms for each of the main crops. So this was a nice upgrade to that because the rate of production was a little bit faster, but it wasn't super complex. I mean, these are very simple farms to build. Also next to the mob farm here is a little room. This is the water bottle refilling chamber for the potion brewer. So the automated potion brewing system is directly underneath this. And again, we had to figure out how to get past the tediousness of restocking all those water bottles because, for an automated system like this, it uses a ton of water bottles. So the question was, how do we get around that? So the way that this works is you want to fill your entire inventory, and then you'll grab some bottles, and then you just go ham. The hoppers underneath me, as you can see, are going to collect all those water bottles, and they're just going to filter through all the way through to the potion brewer. It's a pretty long hopper chain all the way to the brewer, so, it would be a while before we filled this up. All right, guys, let's head down to the tangent floor, which is really going to expand a lot of the Power Museum's functionality. So first thing we see is the Stas red line. This is the northbound line that's going to take you all the way to Starlight Treehouse from here. And here you can see a really good use of the subway, right? Because we do have a lot of parts of the base that are very vertically separated just as much as horizontally. So Stas is designed to easily connect parts of the base that are above ground with parts of the base that are below ground. On the other side from the Stas red line is going to be another modifier. This is called Starlight Corkscrew, and this is actually the mechanism that's going to toggle those lava dispensers to kill those mobs that are in there. Before I go through how this works, I really need to explain how the entire modular infrastructure works. Otherwise, it's not really going to make sense. So to do that, let's head into here. And this is where the redstone heart of the base exists. These are where most of the plugins are. Over here is the modular mixer. So this is where you can plug in each of those modifiers. As I mentioned earlier, there are two generators in the base which you will use to perform different base functions. One of them is the Modular Interface Specification Center, and the other is the Dropbox, which we just saw a little bit earlier. And so you can use this mixer to decide which modifiers that you'd like to plug in. So if you want, you can have it so that spectrometer only impacts the Dropbox and not what you do with the MISC, or vice versa. So let's go ahead and head to the MISC now, so I can show you that. This is the center for all modular linking in the entire base. You can use this machine to connect other parts of the base together and control the degree of automation that happens in the base. And you can also use this to change the way certain pressure plates or certain farms interact with one another. You do have a lectern here which will tell you how to use everything, and also a book and quill here in the wall, which is the link map. So this is your map that kind of shows you how the buttons are oriented, and it's going to tell you what order you need to press them in order to create a specific link. So for example, if you want to use the iron farm, which is already automated, and use that to create potions at our potion brewer, you'll create the link 4B. So to create a link, you'll press this glowstone, and that starts the linking process. You'll select 4 and B, and that's it. You can see it locks by default, and when you lock it, by the way, you can't do anything. None of these buttons do anything. So that's how easy it is to use. That link has just now been created, and it's now going to make it so that any iron that's detected from the iron farm as iron golems die, those iron ingots are going to create a side output, and that output is going to be used as an input, which is going to automate the production of our potion brewer. Here you can see you can use the different stats lines to accomplish the same task, as well as the netherwort farm. You can also modulate the production of our mushroom farm over in the farmlands using the giant mushroom farm, using the wool farm, using the sugarcane farm. You guys can see that by utilizing the MISC, we can very quickly unlock the base's full potential in terms of what it can do. At any point, you can reset any of the links that you create by switching the mode and then doing the same thing. So if I click 4B, it's now reset that link. Note that doing that will respect any of the other links that you have set up. So for example, if you've set up all 3 of these links, but you only reset 3A, it's not going to touch 1A and 2A. But if you wanted it to, you could switch this to reset and press this button, and you can see there's a little lag spike there, because what that actually does is it resets every single link. So let's say you've created a whole bunch of links, and I do this often, by the way, where I'll set up a whole bunch of links to automate my potion brewing amongst other things, and I'll forget what I've set up. So if I want to start on a clean slate, I just switch this to reset and press that button, and that'll reset every single link in the base. So what if I set up a bunch of links, but the production rate is still a little too fast? Well, that's what the modifiers are for. In order to plug in a modifier, you have to do a few things. First, you have to make sure that the aux-in is enabled. Then you have to actually plug it in using the modular mixer. So if we're plugging it into the MISC, we'll select the balancer, and then you have to actually turn it on. I know it seems like a lot of busy work, but this system is very much designed similarly to how an analog system would be built. So with the aux-in, you're plugging it in physically, right? But then you have to actually turn it on in order to get it to work. By designing the plugins this way, I really wanted to give Starlight that, very technical, almost computer-like feel to it. So I hope that explanation made a little bit of sense, and now you kind of understand how the modular system works. So let's just go through, and I'm going to tell you what each of these modifiers actually do. Starlight Balancer, as its name suggests, balances out how much redstone activity is happening at a given time. And this is why I recommend plugging it in, because if you don't and you create a whole bunch of links, you're going to notice a lot of lag very quickly, and that's because a whole ton of stuff is happening at the same time. Additionally, it will flat out disable modular activities that create a lot of lag anyway. Note also that the function of the modifier sometimes depends on the generator it's plugged into. So the MISC and Dropbox do have different functions, and we are going to return to the Dropbox as well in a minute. At the moment, Starlight Inverter doesn't do anything to the MISC, but it does have a function on the Dropbox. So once we go over the Dropbox, I am going to tell you what that is. Heading back down here, Starlight Limiter slows down the rate of production in the base, and it does this by plugging in pulse dividers to the output. So if I turn this on, here it is. With Starlight Limiter plugged in, now instead of creating an output for every single input that it receives from a source, such as the iron farm, it will now cut that down to every 3 inputs or every 5 inputs, or in some cases, like with the potion brewer, every 12 inputs. This is very useful when potion production is way too fast. So if I'm working on a big project at the base and I still want to have potions brewing automatically, but I don't want them to brew too fast, I'll turn Starlight Limiter on, and I'll usually only create 1 or 2 links to control the automation of the potion brewing process. Starlight Echo simply creates a delay between the inputs and the outputs, which may not be very useful, but it does exist. There is one major modifier that is quite a bit more involved than the others, and that would be Starlight Compressor. This performs a range of different functions that are going to make a little more sense a little later. A lot of the functions of Compressor are very technical, so I'm actually not going to dive into all of them. You have a lectern here for that. Basically what it does is it uses item input to regulate base behavior in a variety of different ways, which are explained using the lectern. And at the same time, it's also an automated item smelter. So if you had a bunch of sand, for example, and other things that you wanted to smelt into glass, you would throw all that in here. It would take all that and put it in a minecart. That minecart would detect how many items are actually in there, and the amount of items that are in there is what the compressor will use to determine if and when it will start the compression process. It will then take those items over to the furnace room, which is in the Starlight Resources facility, smelt those down, and then return back for the next load. To use it, you will aux in, of course. One parameter that I will show you is going to be this lever here in the bottom right. This is going to change which items are smelted and which are not. In its current state, every item that can be smelted will be smelted, and that includes all food, ores, things like stone, sand, even stone brick, which can be smelted to create cracked stone brick. If you turn this on, only ores and food will be smelted. All other items will be sent into a separate storage unit and bypass the smelting process. Additionally, as you might have figured, you can change the target location of the minecart by pressing this, and you only want to do that if you are smelting terracotta into glazed terracotta. So this is going to redirect that minecart into the glazed terracotta storage room, where it will take all that terracotta, break it down into glazed variants, and store that. Again, if you want a deeper dive into this plugin, I might do a video on it, but honestly, most of its functions are very technical. And then if we head on down here, this is sort of the MISC lobby, and it'll take you down here. And you can actually check out the wiring for this into the viewing room, which is in here. And you can get a little taste of the redstone work that goes into the construction of this build. It is absolutely insane. There's redstone wires running behind every single wall in this entire base. There's redstone everywhere. This takes you into the Starlight Resources facility control floor. I am going to hold off on that for now. So I think that gives you a comprehensive introduction to the modular system. But as you can see, it's a complex system of customization that really just transforms the way that you think about automation in Minecraft. Because that's really been the goal of this, is to create customizable automation. For right now, we're going to move on from this. If we head this way, it's going to take you all the way to Starlight Outback, which we're not quite going to dive into just yet, but I am going to show you the iron farm storage. This is right beneath the iron farm above. This is where we store our iron ingots and poppies. And I can turn these into blocks if I wish and store those in here as well. So now we're back in the tangent floor lobby, and we're gonna head this way, and I'm gonna show you guys the automated potion brewing system, which has a lot of different functions to it. You can see that this potion brewer is a recreation of Mumbo Jumbo's original potion brewer design, and you can brew potions manually. So just to show how that works, if I wanted to create an extended splash potion of, I don't know, night vision, you just click that, and it's going to go ahead and brew right here. And all the potions are going to be extracted from there down into these chests, which, as you can see at the moment, are full of all kinds of random potions. And most of these were brewed using the MISC automatically. I didn't actually manually brew any of these. So now what we're going to do, guys, is I really want to showcase some of the modular functions of the base at work. To do that, I'm going to create a couple links with you guys right here. Okay, let's use the villager run crop farms, which I haven't shown you yet, but they do exist. And we're going to use those as an input to control the potion brewer. So to do that, we'll switch this to save. We'll start the process. We'll create that link. That's 1B. And let's also do this link, stas red. So this means every time we actually use the red line, it is also going to toggle the potion brewer to create some potions. So that's 6B. Alrighty. Now, I do recall that we plugged limiter in, and because we plugged Starlight limiter in, it's not going to brew a potion for every single time stas is used, or every single time that input is detected. Remember that it limits the rate of production. So it's going to require at least, I think it's somewhere around 10 or 12 of those inputs before it actually brews a potion. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that off, which we can do very easily just by turning it off or unplugging it. Any of those work. You don't have to do both. Yep, so you can see right away those crop farms are working. Villagers are trading with each other right now as we speak, and that was enough to toggle an automated input of night vision potions here. At least I think it's night vision. Let's see which one it actually is. Ah, it's actually speed. So this is a great opportunity for me to show you guys another feature. If we head down here, you're going to see that we have something called the Starlight Generator Brew Selector. So this is going to actually tell the MISC which potions to brew. So you can see right now we've selected speed, but if we want to switch it, we can just change this to fire resistance. This side is going to take precedence over what you have over here. So if we switch it to night vision, this side will become nullified, and it will start brewing night vision potions. These modifiers do apply, so you do want to make sure that whatever potion you select, the modifiers will work with it. And I say that because night vision, for example, it cannot have a improved variant using glowstone. So if you have glowstone enabled, it's going to lock up. So you just want to be careful with that. Alright, so those speed potions are going to be extracted, and I want to wait and see if it's going to go ahead and start up with another batch. Yep, you can see right away we've started another batch. So this new batch is going to create night vision potions. You guys can see just how quickly those chests would fill up, and this is the reason why I plug in Starlight limiter. Yep, you can see now we're brewing night vision. So you can see that while I'm working in the base, this is a really effective use of the base's modular functions, because we are using certain processes in the base that are already automatic in order to control other processes which otherwise would require player interaction. This is now a great opportunity to show you guys Starlight Corkscrew. This is technically a modifier. First, you need to plug it in as you do any other generator or modifier here. My bad. You're going to aux in right here, and in a moment you should hear, actually let's switch this to take that limiter off. You should hear the dispensers here in a moment. Basically it's using input from the MISC, and that input is creating a second output which goes directly to those lava dispensers that will kill mobs that are in there. Actually, we hooked up stas to it, so I can literally show you right now. If I use stas, you can hear that it just worked there. It just killed all those mobs. You heard the end of that dispenser there. But as you can see, it's always good to keep Corkscrew plugged in because every now and then it's just going to kill whatever mobs are in there automatically. You just heard it again. If we apply the limiter, this has the same function as Starlight Limiter where it will require, I think it's 3 inputs. Every 3 inputs it will toggle. So it's just going to slow down the rate at which those dispensers work. And here you can select whether you want it to be a long pulse or a short pulse. And I usually keep it on long just to make sure that the mobs do fully die. But if you want to do short, that's going to be more likely that you'll keep those drops. In this hallway, we have a couple other things. This is the mushroom farm storage for the mushroom farm that is above us. This mushroom farm is very old. It was the original mushroom farm we first built in the Farmlands that has now been repurposed into a modular farm. So again, this mushroom farm is another great example of how I really try to make sure that even the oldest projects in this base can continue to have some usefulness. Next to that, we have a potion brewer specifically for potions of weakness. We cannot actually brew potions of weakness with this design. It just doesn't work. So we need a separate potion brewer for that. So all you do is push that button and it's going to do it for you. By the way, that does also work with the MISC. So if you switch this to weakness, all that's going to do is disable the main potion brewer, and there's a second potion brewer inside here that you can't see that brews weakness potions automatically. It brews only splash potions because the expectation is that I'm only using these for curing villagers. That's the only use I have for them. So there's not really any way to modify that. So continuing on with the tour, we're gonna head into these hallways here. And this is now technically the Starlight Resources Facility control floor. So first and foremost, I'm gonna show you guys the villager run crop farms that I keep talking about. Those are right here. And these work by utilizing a specific mechanic where villagers in each of these sections here will attempt to trade with this guy in the middle. However, that trade will be unsuccessful because those drops will be collected by the minecart hoppers here. We have one plot for carrots, one for beetroots, and one for potatoes here. And we do also have one for wheat, but that mechanic works a little differently. You see, villagers don't trade wheat with one another, they trade bread, but bread is not a useful resource, at least not nearly as much as wheat is. So this farm is actually designed a little differently. Underneath every single one of these blocks is a hopper, so there's actually hoppers underneath this entire plot. So anytime that wheat is harvested, it's immediately picked up by the hoppers. In addition to being a farm for these crops, I can also trade with these guys, and because they are purified zombie villagers, the trades are very favorable. Add on to that the fact that this is a very powerful modular input for several other targets in the base, such as the potion brewer, as we demonstrated earlier. And you can see that this is a very important development of the base here. So there is a pathway here that's going to take you down to the Starlight Resources Facility main floor, but we are going to forego that just for right now because I do want to get through the rest of this floor real quick. We have an overflow storage for some of these mob drops. This control floor was built above the main floor of the resources facility, mostly as a way to be able to restock a lot of the farms that are on that main floor. So I'm not going to go into all of those restocking little areas, and you're looking at one of them right here, but that was the original purpose of building this floor. However, as you can see, the floor has expanded and now has a lot of other functions as well. So if we run over here, you're going to see this is the MISC lobby that we were just in earlier, and this is one of those restocking areas where you just go and put bone meal. Okay, so this is the storage unit for the Dropbox upstairs. So as you can see, it stores very specific items in large quantities, such as stone, cobblestone, stone slabs, dirt, stone brick, gravel, and sticks, with any miscellaneous items going here. And so at the moment, the hoppers are not on, so you can freely, destroy these blocks and pick up any shulker boxes you might have. And so what you do with this is you'll fill this up with cobblestone or stone or dirt or whatever you have a huge amount of, and you can turn it on, and this will start to funnel out all of this stuff that you have, and we can just finish it up here. In addition to automatically sorting out those items, you can use these items to control other aspects of the base. And there are a lot of the same targets that the MISC controls. And of course, you're given the option to do this. It's not automatically the case. So right now, it's just functioning as an automatic storage system, basically. But if you want to enable that modular activity, you can click this button. I know you guys can hear those dispensers in there. That's the Dropbox doing that. So it's collecting all that cobblestone, and what it's doing at the same time is it's toggling all those dispensers to grow all the trees in our tree farm. Actually, this is a great time to demonstrate one of the functions of Starlight Compressor, because what Compressor does is it regulates all of that insanity. The thing is, there's no reason why those dispensers need to be working for more than 5 or 10 seconds, right? Because those trees are going to all grow within a few attempts to use bone meal. So even if we have a constant stream of cobblestone flowing in, we don't need to keep those dispensers activating all the time, because it's just going to create a lot of lag. But this is where things get a little complicated. As I mentioned earlier, the functions of a modifier are gonna depend on the generator it's plugged into. And as you'll notice, there's no more cobblestone flowing into here. Well, that's because when you plug Starlight Compressor into Dropbox, not only does it regulate those modular outputs, but it also changes the target of where all those items go. So what it's actually doing right now is it's funneling all of that cobblestone now directly into the minecart at Starlight Compressor. Then it's going to take all that cobblestone over to the furnace room, smelt it or not, depending on the type of compression mode that we have set. And those items are going to be stored in a completely separate location than here. Okay, so here you're seeing active compression now. Starlight Balancer and Inverter do both have functions on the Dropbox related to the modular links that it creates within the base. I can't remember off the top of my head what those do, but it's provided in the lectern that's down there. These lecterns are going to tell you a little more about what you can do with Dropbox and really some effective ways that you can chain it up with different modifiers to create some interesting base behaviors. Continuing along the control floor here, we are entering the transport center, and this is where all the transport pods convene from elsewhere in the base. In the future, these are a couple other transport pods that I would like to make. The reason that this is very useful is because of the fact that the Starlight Resources facility is home to the largest collection of storage for all of the items in the game. So when I'm transporting items back from the Nether or from Starlight Room up in the Essentials room if I finish a project, it's just an easy way to access all of these items that I can then put away at a later time, so I don't have to do it right away. If we head over here, you can see there are some items that are smelting right now. This would be the cobblestone from the compressor that we briefly set up earlier. We had created a chain link between the Dropbox and compressor. So it's creating a bunch of stone for us. And this side is for ores. Ores are automatically sorted out and brought over to the blast furnaces on this side of the table. Anything smelted is really just going to end up in this chest right here, which is a potential room for improvement because, again, if you are transferring all the Dropbox's massive haul of items into here and then all you get is one double chest, I could foresee some issues with that. So definitely some room for improvement on this system right there. Any items that are not smelted but are still sent by the compressor will end up in here into the compressed item storage, which there's nothing here now because we've only sent items that are going through the smelting cycle. Again, potential room for improvement here because it's not a very well-defined or organized sorting system at least for the output of compressed items. And that's pretty much it for the control floor as of right now. If we just loop right around here, we are back to the potion storage. All right, so we're back on the Power Museum tangent floor. If you remember this staircase, if you keep going, it's going to take you to the Starlight Resources lobby. So we are now in the lobby here, and this wall here is the Parkour Wall of Fame. So this lists all of the official parkour courses in the world, as well as the date that they were built. The lobby has a couple sections here. If we take this wall, it'll take you into the main hub. That right there is Redstone Room. This here is another parkour course called Landing Pad, and I've actually done an entire video showcasing this course. Again, I'll put that in the description. This is honestly one of my favorite projects here in Quintropolis because it is a fully redstone operated self-contained course, and I'll go ahead and start it actually, but I'll need to do a couple things because it's not very lag friendly. So I'm gonna reduce my render distance and turn smooth lighting off for this, which is really what you're gonna need to do. So if you press this button, it'll start the course here, and I'll also turn my volume down just for this bit. So you can see it's a redstone operated parkour course. It's pretty difficult. It's not an easy course, but you also would not be attempting this course if you're not already pretty good at Minecraft parkour. There is a dedicated chicken farm in the course so that you've always got a little bit of food at your disposal, and if you want to play a little music, you can do that as well. You really are going to need to be good at parkour in general in order to have a chance at tackling it. But I do think I've made some significant improvements to the course for version 3.0 because this course was originally released with version 2.0 back in 2016. But I think at the time the course was way too hard. I don't think the playability value is very good. So I have made some major improvements to the course that I think make it a lot more fun now, and which do account for some of the changes in Minecraft over the years. At any time, if you have given it your best and you just weren't able to complete it in one sitting, you can always exit the course by heading out here and aborting the game. And that's going to stop the entire course. Everything is controlled by a single button, that's right. So you can start and stop the course as many times as you like until you finally beat it. And for those of you who do complete the course, well, let me just say it's called Landing Pad for a reason. There is a pretty fun, entertaining ending for those of you who can complete the course. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna start here at the main hub and we're gonna wrap our way around back to Redstone Room right over here. So as we come into here, there's a lot of farms down here, and what the first one you're seeing here is just a very basic vine farm. In the main hub area, you have a slime farm here as the centerpiece, and the slimes jump down and they drown to death. That's how this farm works. And around the hub, there's a lot of other farms going on. And this is going to give me an opportunity to introduce a couple other modular functions. So right now, this pressure plate doesn't actually do anything. You can see that this is a manual pumpkin and melon farm. And normally, to harvest this manually, you press this button, but I'm going to demonstrate that you can actually hook this up to some modular sources later on. Over here, we have a netherwort farm, and what bugs me is that this is one of the few farms that you cannot automate fully. You will always have to manually replant these guys. So to do that, you'll press this button and you'll grab some of the nether warts here. This staircase takes you up to Starlight Room, which we saw earlier. Next to that, we have the Mob Resources Division, which we are going to come back to in a minute. Here you have the automated flower farms, which are super easy. Just press that and you can get all the sunflowers to your heart's content. This is Enderquin Station, which we just were at here. Here is the chicken farm. This is the cactus farm. You can turn it on or off with this button. This is the tree farm that you saw above. Takes you into here. And you can also manually toggle all these dispensers with these buttons. So clicking this one toggles the 3 rows on this side, and likewise this one does the 3 rows on that side. And then we have storage for all the different wood types and various different materials that you can make with the wood, like fences, stairs, slabs, and all that kind of stuff. And next door to that is our 6-layer sugarcane farm. This next area is the food hub. This is a farm design from, I can't remember his name. The way this works is you can get either wheat, carrot, or potato, and what you'll do is sit in this and just place these. Again, this was a very old project that I made back in 2015. Pretty old, but still very useful. We do have the automated wheat farms by the villagers now, but again, this is just another source that we can use to obtain these crops in rather large amounts. You can see how quickly we can actually accrue these crops. It's actually quite a lot faster than the villager crop farms, in fact. The main draw to the villager-run farms, of course, is that they do not require player interaction, whereas this one does. But everything in life is a compromise, right? And again, these work with carrots and potatoes. It actually does work with beetroots as well. I did notice it missed a couple of them, but that's not too bad overall. You can also use it with cocoa beans, but it's not super efficient because you actually have to break each of these every time. But that's totally fine because we actually have a dedicated cocoa bean farm right up here. So to use this, you turn this on here, and you have to place it at the right time, and then you can just hold down the right mouse. I think we got it. I know it doesn't look like it's doing much, but actually it is. You can see how many cocoa beans are still filtering in there. This is a potato baker. If you want to bake them, you can just throw them in here, and it's gonna bake those and send them directly into the top shelf here. And you can also make cookies. You have everything you need here to craft cookies. So you can make those. And in fact, this is a good use for composting. Cookies have the highest chance to create compost. So a really good use of this farm hub is to create cookies and then insert them here into the composter, which is going to create bone meal. And there's a little bone meal storage underneath that we'll take a look at. And you can also make pumpkin pies here. And again, because I am a completionist, you will find both rabbit stew and beetroot soup stored in here, even though there is absolutely no reason that you would ever be eating these in your normal everyday gameplay. You cannot stack these items, so I guess if you were having a special celebration with your friends or something, you might all celebrate with rabbit stew or something, but otherwise, I have no idea what you'd be doing with that. So that's it for the farms in the main section here. So now let's head underneath because the storage cellars under here is where all of the storage is for all these farms. So if we head under, we start with our pumpkin and melon farm storage. Then here we have our nether wart farm storage. This is also for all prismarine blocks and other ocean items such as corals, kelp, seagrass, and some other things. Prismarine and prismarine crystals and mushrooms. This is a snow farm. This is an old project. So the way it works is you stand on this and it's going to give you a stone shovel, and you're going to pick that up and you're going to dig. Yeah, so you have to grab those too and then put them all in here. It could be a little better, but it does exist. Moving on along here, we do have some other storage for mossy cobblestone and obsidian. And this is a little storage area, mostly just for stone-related blocks, cobblestone. And then in here, we have the dye storage room. This was a really fun project because I wanted to think of creative ways to label each of the chests. So this is kind of what I came up with. It's pretty unbalanced in here because some dyes, like red, for example, we have overwhelming sources of that with the poppy farm upstairs. So we naturally have a ton of red dye, but then we don't have as much for like light gray or even regular gray dye. We have literally one. And if we move on, we've got chicken, feather, and egg storage from the chicken farm above us, and this extends to a second level. So as you can see, there are 2 levels of storage. In here we have the cactus farm storage, which is worth bringing some attention to because there's a little mechanism back here which separates the cactus so that you get exactly equal amounts of cactus and green dye. Then we just have some random chests for random items here and here. And then this room is for all of our glass pane, and terracotta storage. Next up, we have the sugarcane farm right above us. That all goes into here. And this is for if you want to manually insert terracotta and you don't want to use Starlight Compressor to do it, you can just throw it into this hopper chain and it's going to send it into the room beneath this one. This takes you down into the diamond mine, which is my primary mine. This has been mostly mined out in entirety. I don't think I've missed any diamonds in this area at all. This is some storage for the 1.8 stone blocks that were added. So let's head down here. This is where that snow goes from the snow farm. This is where I keep ice and packed ice. This is the wool storage room for the sheep processing facility, which is right above us. I'll show you that in a minute. And then we can create carpet if we want and store that in here. Underneath here is the slime farm storage. You have to manually take those out, which is something I would like to improve so that it will automatically disperse to all of these. Up next, we have some quartz storage here for quartz and quartz blocks. And then this is a little project called the rasterizer. And this is what I use to create waypoints for all the maps that we saw earlier. The way that works is I already have it pre-stocked with all of the different dyes. And then we also have some looms here. Each of these chests already contains all of the different colored banners. So if we want to add like a green, you can add a green. And then you can select what pattern that you want to use. So we do that one, and then we now have the banner that we want to create. And then you'll use the anvil to name that banner, and then what you have to do is you have to place that banner on the ground, right-click it with a map, and that's going to create a waypoint with the name that you give it in the anvil. Next, I already showed you, this is stone and stone brick storage. We have a couple other blocks here that I store. And the bottom layer of the chicken farm. You've already seen all this. This is the glazed terracotta storage room. So again, it sorts out the regular terracotta and then smelts it afterward. Here we have the paper mill. I take a lot of that sugarcane upstairs and I create paper right here. Next to that is the bone meal storage for the composter up in the food hub. And then at the end here in the corner is, fittingly, the end block storage room, including a shulker box with shulker shells. All right, let's head into the mob resources division. We have a few things to talk about in here. First, we have the sheep processing facility. And the way this works is you grab your shears and you'll shear all these guys to your heart's content. And once you've done all that, you'll click this water. It's going to send those wool items into a stream beneath us, which is going to funnel them into the automated storage room you saw right below us. When you're done, press that again. If you break these shears, press this button and it's going to throw out another pair for you. I've grabbed an axe here to demonstrate how this farm works. So you just kind of break all these and it's going to give you mushrooms, basically. You can take your mushrooms and throw them into this hopper, and this is going to automatically sort the red and brown mushrooms from each other into the mushroom storage you saw beneath us. But make sure to keep one mushroom because you're going to take that last mushroom and place it right here, which is going to automatically make a new one. And then you can just rinse and repeat, and you can swap out between brown and red mushrooms by just grabbing a mushroom from underneath. This is also the room where all of the mob drops are located for the mob drop farm that you saw earlier. All of your arrows, gunpowder, and we have some witch drops in here, not a ton. I use a lot of redstone, so this chest pretty much stays empty all the time. Armor drops, and this is where all those music discs are. And then behind us is the crop farm storage from the villager run crop farms, which are actually located above redstone room. So there's a pretty long hopper chain here that sends them all here. Let's continue on in here. This is the concrete creator. The way you use this is you just grab some concrete that you want to use. Then you're going to place the concrete in the offhand and put your pickaxe in your main hand. And then you're just going to hold down left and right click here and it'll create concrete. It just goes into here. You can grab that and then place it in the correct chest. Next, we're going to head into the room where I spend most of my time, admittedly. This is Redstone Room. This is where I keep all of my redstone materials, like comparators, repeaters, torches, everything redstone related, you name it, it is here. I've got almost a half chest full of hoppers and all kinds of stuff in here. Redstone itself is stored in these dispensers that line the center. And in this corner, I've got materials that I use to build certain redstone items, but they're not directly related to redstone. For example, you might use gold to make powered rails, or you might use quartz to create comparators. And then in this corner, similar idea, we have some redstone components, but like not everything here is directly related to redstone, like slime blocks, for example, and TNT and string. This, by the way, is that stairwell we saw earlier that takes you back up into the control floor where the villager farms are. And then this is Stas again. This is the redstone room station. There is one more place to show you guys, and that's the Starlight City Planning Center, which is an extension of the facility here. It's relatively new, but it is going to expand significantly in the future. So we are actually underneath the Outback now. This is the part of the base that's underneath Starlight Outback. And to start, I will introduce you to the crop farm options. Right now, the crops that are being produced by those villagers are being turned into bone meal because we have the bone meal farm active. So those are actually filtering into a composter and being stored in this room, which is just chock full of bone meal. But we can turn it off, and that's going to turn it into crop collection mode. So all of those crops are going to be filtered into these chests in here. Likewise, we can choose whether to smelt potatoes or not smelt potatoes with this lever. These next three options give you even more control over how you're using those crop farms to modulate other processes in the base. What this lever will do is it will enable these two modular buffers. So in order to use these two options, you have to first enable this one. And what this does is it says that it's only going to act as an input for other targets in the base if it's in crop collection mode. So right now, it will create MISC links and brew potions, for example. However, if we switch this to modulate bone meal farm only, this means it currently will not do that until we switch it to bone meal farm. Once it's in bone meal farm mode, then it will continue to create links with other parts of the base. We can further refine the behavior to say it will only modulate in crop collection mode, and in addition to that, it has to also be in a potato smelter mode. So you can turn that on or off. Next, we have storage for all of the job site blocks, in addition to some other things like lanterns here. Then we have the bamboo farm. Now, I want to preface this by saying we do have some modular options for the bamboo farm, but due to some last minute changes, the modulation capabilities of this were removed. So at the moment, the bamboo farm is not connected to the MISC, but in the future it will be. So these don't actually do anything at the moment, but the groundwork for them behind the scenes has already been built. So the way this works is you just push this, and it'll go through and collect all the bamboo, and there are mine carts underneath. They will race through and grab all that goodness, and then it's all going to come back and be stored under here. This next project here is pretty big, but you wouldn't be able to tell because it's just a tiny little hub. This was originally built as a modifier, but at the moment, with the current base's infrastructure, it is not. It doesn't actually work as a modifier. It works more as a generator. To turn it on, you press this, and what it actually does is it multiplies the crop production in the base. So back behind here, there are 8 additional copies of most of the major crop farms that are down here, and that includes melon, pumpkin, sugarcane, cactus, and mushroom. What you can actually do is you can control how many of these layers are active at a single time. You can see that at the moment, most of these are turned off, and that's because we currently only have overdrive set to a power of 2. And what that means is that only the very bottom layer is going to be activated. And the reason it's a power of 2 is because we already have a set of melon and pumpkin farms in the base, right? So it's just adding a second one. To add more layers, it's as simple as rotating the sword. So that toggles 2 layers, and we can up it all the way to 9. And you can see there's a huge lag spike. But in fact, there's a warning telling you that that's going to be the case. So if we have this set to 9, this is maximum production. You can see how it works here because different states on the item frame put out a different signal strength. So right now at level 9, all of them are being output. So all of those layers are now being toggled, and every single one of these farms is now active. So let me just get through this mess here. You can see all the sugarcane farms are now working. This is the 3rd type of mushroom farm in the base, and it's a little different than the others. It was either X or Mumbo. I remember watching a video on this and I thought it was really cool. The way it works is mushrooms will grow onto these puzzle blocks here, which will toggle this observer, which will toggle the piston and cause it to grab the block and then immediately replace it, which breaks the mushroom, and that mushroom is then collected by a minecart, and it goes through this chain down underneath. And there's actually a huge chain of hoppers and water channels that are funneling through all of these individual farms. So all of the crop production that comes from that is stored right in the adjacent room. We've got all of our melons and pumpkins here. And this is actually, at this point, my primary source for all of these particular crops. And again, this is just another use of our modular system. You can customize the level of automation in the base. I can choose whether or not to have that much production going on or not. Alright guys, let's head up to Starlight Outback. So to do that, we are going to take the Stas blue line, and we are just going to hop on that, and that's going to take us where we need to go. And don't mind the visual glitch here, this sometimes happens, but everything is fine. There we are, so we're just going to hop out of that. And we are here. We are in the Outback. Now, the entire faction is brand new for version 3.0. The whole thing was built in Season 3. And so you start here in the Outback Plaza. This is where all of our beacons are. And around the Outback, there is a puzzle-lined trail that goes all the way around. So I think we're going to start here, and what we'll do is we'll follow the trail all the way around, and I'll show you the different things that are here. We have a little pathway that goes over here to the Farmlands. Now, the Farmlands are actually one of the oldest things in this world. You can actually see the development of these in that original Let's Play that I told you about earlier. The Farmlands are no longer used, but I do keep them here for preservation purposes, even though I keep saying I'm going to get rid of them. And that mushroom farm I was talking about earlier, which is now hooked up to our modular system, is located right under here. There used to be a button here that you could step on, and that would toggle mushrooms that would grow in here, but that has since been removed. So I very much want to show you guys Starlight Treehouse first and foremost. That is the centerpiece of the Outback. So to get there, you're just going to take this pathway all the way to the top of the hillside. Now, alternatively, if you take the Stas red line, it'll actually take you right here to the top. And if we were to hop in this, it would take us right back to the tangent station of the Power Museum. Starlight Treehouse was designed to be a relatively complex redstone house disguised as a primitive treehouse. So there's actually a lot of features of this. And it starts here on the ground floor. To get to the top, you're going to stand in this elevator and push this button. And when we get here, you are going to be greeted by Greta, our librarian, who gives us looting 3 books amongst much else. Oh, it looks like there's a little rainstorm going on. A thunderstorm, actually. Oh, that's not good. As you guys can see, the treehouse is very flammable, so we're going to want to take care of that right now. It is worth noting that the treehouse is slabbed for nether brick to prevent a lightning strike from burning the entire thing down. But it is always best to err on the side of caution. As you can see, there's still a couple spots, and even down there where if lightning were to hit it at the wrong spot, it would not be a fun day for me. We have a little piston door here, and this is kind of designed as a little bit of a combination lock. This is the only combination in which the door will be open. Any other combination, it's going to be closed. So you better remember that. Going in here, we have a little block swap contraption here, which Greta has hogged. There we go. It just creates a little crafting table. And down here you get, again, we're utilizing the fence post functionality here to give you a nice view of the Outback from above. And you can see that hillside pathway and the podzol trail running along the Outback. Outside that main hub, we have a couple branch rooms here. This one is the home to all of my cats. On the other side, we have my home for my dogs, and that's way down here. You can see, here they are. As we head back up this path, there's actually a side branch path we can take, and that's going to take us down into the storage room / adventure map room. So this just has some storage for some various items, and also the adventure map for pretty much everything that we have explored so far. Almost everything. So you can see Quintropolis Island here in the center, and this is the Megapolis region north of that. Northeast of that is Rainbow Cliffs, Stanland directly to the east, and the Alchemy Farm to the south, and then way down here in the corner, you can see Aftermath. You'll also notice that there are some storage units here for specific items, and that's because we have all of these farms directly above us, and all of the items from those farms are automatically funneled into these chests. Back at the entrance here, we're going to head up a layer, and first I want to show you guys the night lights control panel back here. You guys might have noticed that surrounding the treehouse are these glowstone pillars here, which sometimes light up and sometimes do not. Well, this control panel here is how you can customize how these lights behave. In its default state, the lights will turn on at night but stay off during the day. But of course you can change that. It's this lever right here that controls that nighttime mode. If you turn this on, that's not going to invert the state of the lights. It's just going to mean that they're not going to turn on at night. If you would like to invert the master state of the lights, you have to press this stone button followed by this wood button. And now you can see the lights will remain in an on state. Likewise, to invert the state, you have to do that same sequence but backwards. Wood, then stone. And now they are off. The reason this works is because, as you'll notice, a wood button stays toggled longer than a stone button does. And so the relationship between these two buttons is key to inverting the master state of the lights. The rest of these toggles here are animation controls. I would not mess with these unless you have a very powerful computer system that can handle them, because those controls will animate the lights in various different ways. Add on to the fact that you can also control these lights with sources like the iron farm or perhaps the multi-purpose mob farm, which you can do and use the lights as a visual indication of that farm's usage. It's just probably not a good idea to do that if you don't have a very powerful system. So now you can see as nighttime approaches, the lights automatically switch on. So now we're gonna head up to this second level here, and I'm gonna show you guys the canopy, which is where I keep all these parrots, as well as a jukebox. So you can actually play some music and have a little dance party, if you will. You can have a nice view of the starlight at night here. And if we head around this way, this is my masterclass bedroom. All of these lights are controlled by the environment, which means that during the day, they do not need to be lit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and go for a slumber. And bam, it is morning, so we can do a little energy conservation here. And this is a case with a lot of the lights in the treehouse, in fact. We also have a chest somewhere in here, right here, for some water bottles, so that we can be hydrated, because it's always good to start the morning with a nice glass of water. And this is a reminder of that. Heading out of here, if we pop around the back, we have the map room, and this shows you some maps of some of the other locations in Quintropolis. Here's a zoomed in view of Quintropolis Island, as you can see, and you can very clearly see the inner circle's location relative to Starlight HQ, and you can just see from this map the footprint that Starlight HQ has on the island. It covers pretty much the entire eastern coast. Moving on along, we have a pretty big section coming up. This is a part of the treehouse called the ecosystem, and this is where a lot of the treehouse's farms come from. So I was really obsessed with creating micro-level farms during the construction of this project. So what I did was I created this area and just threw as many micro-level farms as I could into a single area. This is also home to some interesting characters, such as our brown mushrooms here. By using poppies, which are in this chest, you'll feed it to the night vision guy here, and then right-click with the bowl, and you now have a suspicious stew that's going to give you night vision, and you can add that to the night vision stew pile. If we head up into here, we have a cocoa bean farm here. Above here, we have more automated wheat, carrot, and potato farms. Just like downstairs in the resources facility, a great use of these two is to create bone meal for the composter, which is right here. So to do this, all you have to do is create some cookies. By getting 8 of them per craft, you maximize the amount of potential bone meal that you can get, as opposed to if you were to just use wheat or if you were to just use cocoa beans. We've got some beehives here with some honey that we can go ahead and harvest. And we can take that harvested honey and throw it in here. That's gonna send it also down to a chest. A friendly fox right here named Garma, and a little tree farm. So let's head downstairs now. I'm gonna show you the little storage area under here. And this is where the bone meal ends up. Honey goes into here. And here's another little room with some stuff. So we have a little bamboo farm here. And you can deposit your bamboo right here. And a sweet berry farm. Just push this and just create some berries. We've got a little sugarcane farm. It's a cute little farm. It's just one sugarcane. And then there's also a melon farm hidden behind here that you cannot see. So here you can see those hopper chains covered up with wood. So they are disguised as branches on the outside, which I think works here. You can see another one over here. This is another hopper chain going down. And this is actually, I believe, another one right here. So again, just keeping with that aesthetic, you cannot see any of the mechanisms or anything from the outside. It's all very well covered up. Let's continue heading upstairs, where we are going to be met with the portal to the Nether. What's going on here? Well, I'm about to show you, but first, a random moon roof, and also a drop-off point for items to the Starlight Resources facility. So at the base of the treehouse is where the transport pod is. If we have a few items up here that we want to transport down, we can throw them down this hatch, and they're all going to be picked up by those hoppers and transferred into that minecart. This portal takes us to the gold grinder, which is my massive gold farm, and so this is the overworld hub for that. Naturally then, you're going to see we have an enchanting room, an anvil here, and then if we go to the other side, we have, this is some gold storage, Since we're here, I am going to go ahead and pop over and I will show you the gold farm. I'm going to fly up here, and those of you who are familiar with this farm design by IL Mango should not be at all surprised by this. You pretty much know exactly what this is. It is the donut ring gold farm shape. You just have to anger one of these guys, and now they will all rise up against you. And you just pop in the center here and collect whatever you want. The storage unit is pretty much what you might expect. And I use all of the golden swords. I smelt those and turn those into gold nuggets, which get stored in here. And the reason why this is not a blast furnace is because we do occasionally get chickens every now and then from the zombie jockeys. You can see that even here, it's way too much zombie flesh for Maker to handle. So I really need to get an army of clerics to trade this stuff with. But that's pretty much what we have here. It's nothing much more than that. All right, so we're gonna head back down now to the Outback Plaza, and I'm gonna show you a little more of the Outback here. I'm gonna take you guys into the new horse stable area, which is located underneath here, and we have some storage for the different horse armor. And then you can see my friends here. This is Zephyrus, Zeus, Taz, and an unnamed guy right here, which honestly, I don't even remember acquiring this guy. Just being honest, nothing personal, my guy. We have a little section under here, and you may recognize this from earlier. This does take you down to the tangent floor. We have a tunnel right here that cuts all the way through the mountain, and there's a shortcut up to Stas. So if you take this, it's gonna take you right up to that Stas station. But otherwise, the tunnel just cuts through the mountain. There's not really anything else in here at the moment. It's mostly designed as a foundation for more stuff to be built into here. If we pop out this side of the mountain, this is where the other end of the Podzol Trail is. And you can see the iron farm here. And basically the golems will fall down and burn to death. And you can also turn this off, by the way. So this is another farm that you can toggle. So if we turn it off, the zombies that are up there will not be able to scare the villagers, which will in turn not create iron golems. Okay, so now that we've had a look at this, I'm going to take you along the trail, and there's really only a couple things to see here. Most of it is, in fact, Outback Wilderness, starting with the Ender Tower. This is purely visual. There's not really much to this. It's just a tower that I built as kind of a monument, if you will. Oh, there is actually something else back here that is pretty big. It's a parkour course. I don't know how I forgot about this. This is called Chambers, and you need a bow and some arrows. Chambers is a very different kind of course because it's honestly less of a parkour course and more of a puzzle. So what it is it's a labyrinth that changes with every press of this button. So it's a maze of chambers, and each time you hit one of these, some of the gates open and some of them close. So you have to keep track of where you've gone and what you've hit in order to find the way out. The second part of the course is an archery-based course, and so for each button that you hit, it will unlock either another button or a section here. I can't remember exactly the sequence, but this is a doorway that'll open. So if you're into that kind of activity, you might find some enjoyment out of this particular course. So if we keep running around this direction, there's really only one other thing to show you out here, which is Vax Valley. So let's take a look at this guy. Vax Valley is the chorus fruit garden that lives out here, and there's also a massive turtle farm right here. Basically, you'll go in here and you'll collect the chorus flowers, and you're going to want to collect at least, I think it's 40. I think you need at least 40 of these. I knew I had 3 brown mushrooms. After you've gotten at least 40 and any surplus that you may want to keep, you're going to press that, and that's going to harvest all these guys. A minecart is then called from over there where the furnaces are, And it's going to collect most of these, though not quite all of them. And you're going to see it picks them up here in a minute. There it goes. And again, it does miss a couple, but that doesn't matter because you have to run back through here and place all these flowers back anyway. So whatever it misses, you're going to pick up. Now we're going to run back to the furnace area, and there's a few things you're going to be able to observe. The first of which is, for some reason, this furnace does not work. Not sure why. The rest of the chorus fruits are dispersed evenly along these furnaces. However, I do separate some out in order to keep the raw fruit because, again, I want to make sure I have a nice balance, so I just keep one column where I don't smelt any, and then the rest are smelt into pot. Any surplus chorus flowers I get stored right in here. You can do manual deposit as well, so if you have some additional chorus fruits you want to throw in, you can just toss them up here, and they will again be dispersed along these furnaces. Next, we're gonna head over to the turtle farm, and I'm gonna show you guys what's going on over here. For those of you who don't know, the only reason you would ever build one of these is because you need baby turtles to grow up so that you can collect these scoot items here. The way that you encourage this to happen is you're gonna hop in here, get on this guy, and feed these guys the seagrass. What the hell? Now what you can observe is a rather boisterous process of laying turtle eggs. And this is gonna happen for quite a while. And because turtles are attracted to water, what's gonna happen is those eggs are gonna hatch. The baby turtles are going to head towards the water, but they're gonna fall into this pit. And I'll allow your imagination to wander what happens when those turtles finally grow up and drop scoots. This concludes our tour of Starlight headquarters. You guys have now seen the entire base, and so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop into Stas, head up to the Nether Temple, and move on out to other sections of the world. So here we are in the Nether Hub, and there's a couple sections to this. Inside here, you're gonna see a few portals which are considered pocket factions located right here within the Nether Hub itself. There's another one there. And then if we head underneath here, these are where the highways are, which will take you out to other sections of Quintropolis. So we're gonna start here at the hub, and I'll show you the different pocket factions here, and then we'll start venturing out onto the highways. I'm gonna pop out here and show you the Blaze Blaster. This is my Blaze Farm, and there's a little feature here where if you press this, it'll animate these lights, and then likewise you can de-animate them by pressing that. Open any previous world download and this farm will probably look different. Originally, it was a funnel-based design, and the blaze would funnel at the bottom, and there were some buttons here that you'd press, and they would be taken up through a minecart block break system. There'd be several minecarts that would take you up. And then there was a column here with an automated crusher that would send them down to the center onto this fence post. Then you could kill them. Every single time Minecraft would update, I found that the block breaks system or some mechanic with ejecting the blaze would not work properly. So I always had to redo it. And I was just tired of doing that. So the current design then is they actually just spawn in the room, and because of their AI, blaze are drawn towards solid blocks. And so they're just gonna end up in this little cage. It's not foolproof and it's also not terribly efficient, but honestly, it works a little better now than that original design did in 1.15. I'll remind you guys that this is 1.15, so blaze do not move in lava as they do in later versions. Over here we have an enchanting room, and then on this side we have our frenemy, which, as you may suspect, we did not have very cordial relations with at one point during our tenure. This was a project I enjoyed building throughout its inception in Season 2, but it really just became a chore through Season 3 because of all the changes I'd have to make due to things breaking when I didn't want them to. And this is kind of a disadvantage to building anything at all that's based on current game mechanics, right? Because at any point, those mechanics can just change without any real notice, and it's up to me whether I choose to adapt my farms or other projects to those changes. So this is the biggest example of that. Next, I'm going to show you guys the Stanland Agricultural Nesting Arena, or sauna for short. So here we are at the sauna. Now the sauna was created to remove some of the inhumane treatment that we had from some of our animals over at the Starlight Resources facility. First, we have a marina out here with some different colored boats, and you can take any of these back to Starlight headquarters. You just follow the bay that way, that's looking directly west. That'll take you to Starlight headquarters. And we just have some cows and mushrooms, which we can breed through our wheat. We don't actually have any other animals in here. I really don't need to have pigs or anything like that, so I just figured, what's the point? And everyone is happy at the end of the day. To be honest, I don't really use this all that much, but it does exist, and it's mostly here for the animals more so than for myself. Moving on down to the next room. This is an interesting project that I had a lot of fun with. It is a different type of wheat farm design, and the reason I built it is because I did want a wheat farm here specifically for the cows and mushrooms, but I didn't just want to copy and paste all the other, any among the previous wheat farm designs that I had created. So I wanted to do something a little different, and that's what we have here. So this design is a little interesting. I did not come up with this design, by the way, but it's been several years since I built it, so I don't remember who did. But the way that it works is you're just going to press this button, and it's going to harvest all these guys, and those are going to funnel down into the center, as you can see. And we're just going to wait patiently for a moment. Don't worry, we're going to collect all those later. And in a moment, these are going to automatically shut off. And then what you'll notice is that the seeds are filtered out, and you just grab them all at the end, and then you replant. The storage room, which is located under here, and I put my seeds on this side and the wheat on this side. And there you go. Easy as that. And that brings us to the final section, which is caravan quarters. It is exactly that. I wanted to have a caravan of llamas with every color, so that's exactly what I did. And I just grabbed a bunch of these guys, and you can see one is missing. I guess he suffocated into a wall when I came over here at one point, which is very unfortunate. And that completes our tour of the sauna. So as you guys can see, it gives you a very different experience, certainly very different from what we have at Starlight. Back in the Nether Hub, we're gonna continue along in a clockwise fashion. This is a highway we are gonna ride later. And right over here, we've got a couple things. This staircase, by the way, takes you to the roof of the Nether, all the way up there, and you can access the gold grinder as well. The gold grinder is located directly above us here. If we pop down here behind, we have the Alchemy Farm. And the Alchemy Farm is just a fancy name for my witch farm that I'm going to show you. So you can see we've got some witch drops here, and this is a mine down there as well. And if we look, I don't know that we can see anything spawning right now, but I'll just get a little closer and show you guys how it works. I know it's a little hard to see, but every block in there is covered with a tripwire. And whenever a witch spawns on any of those blocks, they will trigger that tripwire, which will tell these pistons to extend or retract, allowing the witches to fall through. So it's a fully automated farm system. That's the AFK waiting area. Speaking of farms, there is another set of them that I want to show you guys here in a much older project, which is called the Mob Processing Hub, and that's located right here. Now, This project was created very early on in Season 2, back in 2015. So it's very old, and there's still remnants of the old way that you would farm mobs back in the day using damage potions. And what this is it's a cave spider farm over here and a skeleton farm over here. And both of these are dungeon-based farms created out of a mine shaft. So the way that the cave spider farm works is cave spiders will spawn in there, and this is an indication that the lights inside are on or off. So right now they're off. And then what you do with this is you press this, and that will crush them down to a one-hit kill. And in an earlier version of the game, they would not actually be able to attack you, but it looks like now they actually can. The skeleton farm next door has been significantly updated from its original version. You can see that it's pretty buggy right now. It doesn't work as well. But this farm was an attempt to bypass the max entity cramming rule that was created in Minecraft 1.11. And I remember this rule very well, because one of the draws to a farm design like this is you would wait here for, I don't know, 1 to 200 skeletons to accrue in a single chamber. You would crush them all, and then you would throw a damage potion or a healing potion at them to acquire all their drops. But once the max entity cramming rule was established, you could only have a total of 24 in a single space, which wasn't as efficient. So this was an attempt to bypass that. If you have the mobs on ladders, that rule does not apply. So you could theoretically continue to squash hundreds of them in a single space. So the idea here is skeletons would fall onto this, and the slime would pull them into that chamber. But as you can see, it doesn't really work as well as I would like. And there's 2 modes to the farm, so at the moment there are 23 hopper minecarts there. So any skeletons that actually successfully get down there will just die. But if we push this, it turns it into an XP farm mode. And any skeletons that land in here, you will hit these guys and kill them. Even though this farm is kind of a legacy feature now, I used to use it a lot back in the day, because this was one of the only major XP farms that I had in this world. I had filled all of these chests full of bones and arrows and all kinds of stuff. And then up here, this is the junk armory. So I actually filter out all of the armor drops that you get from these guys. Once the bone and arrow drops filter around here, the rest are sent up into an ice ring all the way around the back of this storage room. And this is just full of junk armor drops. I remember creating full sets of gold armor and creating fully repaired bows, which I would then take to the enchanting room and create all of these guys that you see right here. And this is another view of the fall chamber for the dark room mob spawner that is above us. We're going to take a look at that in a moment. We're going to move on now and head down this hallway, which is just a decorative little area. And this is going to take us down to the area we just looked at. This is the storage unit for the general mob farm that's above us. If we continue on up through this spiral staircase, we are going to end up back in the main hub area. And this is where our enchanting room is. You can see that this is actually the other end of the railway that goes all the way back to Starlight headquarters. This railway originally had 2 different functions. First, it would be the primary mode of transportation between Starlight and the hub that I used to use, but also it was the primary mode of transportation for potions. As a chest minecart would arrive, hoppers would pull the potions out, but only if the hoppers were activated. So at the moment, you can see that the hoppers are not. If we press this button, it will enable those hoppers so that they can pick up the items that are brought here. The potions that would be extracted from here will be held in a minecart that sits at the bottom. So then you would head over to this area, press this button to call that minecart. That minecart would rest on here, deliver your potions, and the minecart is on an automatic timer, so once all the potions have emptied, it will then return back to its post. At the moment, the railway does still function, but it now functions as a transport pod connected to the Starlight Resources facility that you saw earlier. That's about it for the main hub area, so now we're going to take a look upstairs. Up here we've got a few different things. First, this is a tunnel that I am preparing for future development because I do have some ideas on how I can continue to get some usability out of this hub. Because as you guys have noticed, it is kind of an ancient area that I don't use as much anymore, so I am trying to revitalize it a little bit. Up here we have a viewing space for the dark room mob spawner, and yes, these lights do impact the rates a little bit here in the corner, but it's really not a huge issue because there are several layers. Over here we have another water tower. This one takes you to the surface hub. If we climb these vines here, you can see there is a little surface hub in the jungle, and this is just to tell you where the mob processing hub is relative to everything else. But if you notice in the distance, you can actually see Starlight Castle there. There it is. So we're not terribly far from it. The inner circle is actually quite a bit further away in that direction, so you can't really see it from here. Those are all the pocket factions here at the Nether Hub. So now we are gonna pop down here into the Nether Expressway terminus, and we're gonna start exploring some of these outer sections of the world. There are 8 highways here in the Nether Hub, and they each take you in one of the 8 main directions. For example, Q0 takes you southeast, Q1 takes you south. Some highways have more to offer than others. So let's go ahead and start here. We're going to start at Q0, which is going to take you to Stonewall and Aftermath. So you just hop in here and enjoy the ride. So here we are. And there are 2 portals here. This one is going to take you to Aftermath, and this one will take you to Crystalline Courtyard. So I'm going to show you this one first because it's going to give us a good view of Aftermath. This, by the way, is Stonewall territory. Both Crystalline Courtyard and Aftermath, which is over there, are located in this territory. And this biome that we're in is a mega taiga biome, as you can see here. And we're actually on top of a hill. Crystalline Courtyard is created for Capricorn. It is his home, and he's not actually able to get out of here, so he can roam freely along the courtyard however he so chooses. If I jump out here, you can get a little view of Aftermath. This is the world's only Guardian farm. This is also the location where we had that giant Wither battle at the end of Season 2. So it is named Aftermath because of that. Literally, the base was built out of ruins. And you can actually see some of those ruins there still in the water. And here we are. The Guardian Farm is another project that has received a lot of updates over the years. Like the Blaze Blaster, it is also unfortunately subject to a lot of those mechanic changes that Mojang has introduced over time. And what I mean by this is that back in the day, in order to create a Guardian Farm, you would have to go through the arduous process of draining an ocean monument, destroying it, and then creating the farm inside that original space. But nowadays, it's easier than ever to build one, and you don't even need to do any of those things, which is a little annoying to me, but I guess it is what it is. As a result of this, however, this farm is probably not as efficient as it could be, but that's totally okay. It still does work. You can pop down here, and the way that it works is the Guardians actually spawn below us in these water areas, and they're going to fall through a series of water channels, which is going to take them either to a nether portal at the bottom, or depending on the mode we've selected, it'll take them up through this water tower up to a separate nether portal at the top here, and that's going to transport them to that fall chamber where you will then be able to harvest them for XP. In order to toggle between the 2 modes, you throw an item over here, and that's going to activate some pressure plates. What that's going to do is it's going to ignite the portal that's at the bottom here, which is going to send these guys into the drop collection chamber on the other side in the nether. So if I jump down here, you can see that it is living on that pressure plate. Now what's interesting here is this is actually only going to toggle that mode for a total of 5 minutes. So you would use this if you wanted to start by having a bunch of guys rush into the nether and die, but then after that period of time, you wanted to move into an XP mode. You do, of course, have a master switch here. If we switch this off to XP mode, what you'll notice is that the portal does not break. That's because we do still have an item on this pressure plate, and as you can see here, it will take 5 minutes for that to despawn. Okay, so now that we have released those pressure plates, if we pop in here, you'll see that the portal is broken. So now what's going to happen is the guardians are going to flow through that portal, and they're going to ascend that giant water tower you saw outside. This, by the way, is an old collection chamber. It no longer functions because there used to be a collection chamber right here full of lava. Again, there was some update where guardians no longer fell all the way through the lava, I think, so it's stopped working. To get back up to the top, you'll head to this water tower. If you want to actually get to the mainland, you're going to jump down here, and then you'll follow this water tunnel. And that's going to take you to the mainland. And we do have a little addendum to the base over here as well. Again, this base was built out of ruins, and the aesthetic style kind of matches that a little bit. So this was mostly a survival outpost more so than a properly built base. But we do have some things that you need, like an enchanting room. There's a little storage area in here with some furnaces. And we have a little potion brewing space and some blocks. This is mostly what I used to deal with drowning that ocean monument section and getting rid of it completely. If we pop out here, you can see a little sugarcane farm, and we're gonna head up there now so I can demonstrate how the XP farm works. Ideally, the best way to get there is just using Elytra, but you can also climb the scaffolding here. And here we are, and there's an ender chest here, thank goodness. So let's just throw those wings on real quick. And so I'm going to try to demonstrate this. So as you'll see, the guardians are going to ascend that water tower and funnel into that nether portal. On the other side of that, there's a chamber that's on an automated timer. Once guardians first enter that nether portal, the chunks on the other side will generate and the timer will begin. After a certain amount of time, they will fall back through the same nether portal, except this time, that portal will take them here, and they will fall down into this chamber where they can then be harvested and killed. In a moment, you're going to see a huge cluster of them fall down. Here they come now. And they're just going to funnel down in, and we can just hop up in here and kill these guys. Nonetheless, this is absolutely still considered a work in progress, as I do feel there's a lot of work that can be done to improve the farm and overall area. I mean, the area just is asking for work to be done. I mean, there's not even a proper storage collection area for this stuff yet. It's all just dropped in here for right now. However, remember that this is only one of the farm's 2 modes. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to head to the other side in the nether, and I'm going to show you guys the crop collection mode. Remember to activate that mode, you're going to pop down here and press this. It's going to light that portal, and so now they're going to go directly into the nether on this side. So if we pop out here and then jump down this ladder, you can see that the guardians will simply come through here and they will burn in the campfires. This area is completed, so this is a full item storage unit for all of the guardian drops that come through, as well as occasionally we do get some ink sacs that fall through here as well. Back here I have a little storage for blocks. If I decide to craft a whole bunch in here, I can then choose to store them back in this area. That rounds out Aftermath for right now, so what we're going to do is continue on along Q0 to the Ice Realms of Stonewall. There's not actually anything there, so I'm going to bypass that and we're going to head all the way over to Candyland because there is something to show you guys over there. The ice realms are just a resource outpost for packed ice because there's an ice spikes biome on the other side of this. But other than that, there's nothing there. If you continue along, though, there's one other leg to Q0, which is going to take you to Candyland. And we are arriving. So here we are. This is currently the end of Q0. So here we are in Candyland, and this is about 10,000, it's actually more than 10,000 blocks away from Starlight. And this used to be my primary source of gathering clay materials, but this has since been changed to Utopia, and now Candyland has a very different purpose, and it's to play Gravity Gorge. Gravity Gorge is a massive parkour course that covers this entire section of the Mesa biome here, and relative to where we are, you have to cross water to get to it, and I have a little set of directions here telling you how to do so. To get to Gravity Gorge, you're just going to follow this pathway down, and you can see this is where I mined out a lot of clay back in the day. It actually gives you the coordinates of the lobby, so if you hop in this boat, we're just going to follow this water all the way until we see a coastline. A fun detail that I'll point out, as you can see, there is some kelp growing under the water. However, there is not kelp growing in this section of the water. That's because Candyland was originally generated in, I believe, 1.7 or 1.8 terrain. Some of these outer locations, however, were generated in 1.15. But as you're going to notice, as we approach the coastline, the kelp disappears again. That's because this section, the entire Mesa biome was generated back in 1.7 or 1.8. However, not all sections of the ocean between them were generated. So we are approaching the Gravity Gorge lobby here. Gravity Gorge is the world's biggest parkour course and the only course dedicated to speedrunning. It is designed this way, not a very difficult course, but a course that takes advantage of the natural landscape and encourages you to beat personal records. Personally, it's one of my favorite courses in the world and overall one of my favorite projects. I've actually done an entire video just on this course, and you can watch a playthrough of the course on my channel. I'll put a link to that video in the description. One thing I will note about the course is that after you complete it, there are 8 hidden bonus coins within the course as well that you can then try to find. At the moment, infrastructure around the course is a little bit lacking. For example, when you complete the course, there's not actually an easy way to get back over here other than just walking through the terrain. So in the future, I do plan to develop this area more into a resort style place, because this is the main attraction of Candyland and probably the only reason you would be coming all the way out here, because it does take a while to get to. We are back in the Nether Hub. That concludes all the points of interest on Q0. And Q1 we are not going to go on because honestly there's really not anything there that I think warrants showing. Utopia, by the way, is just the location for my current sand and clay quarries. That's where I go for those materials. So let's pop on over to Q2, which doesn't exist yet. In fact, this location doesn't even exist yet, so this is more of a teaser than anything else. Q3 also doesn't really have anything built, but I am going to show it to you guys because it's kind of an important location. This is going to take us over to the main central villages of Starlight City. So that portal is going to take you into kind of a makeshift dumpster, and you have to break out of here and you'll be in a village. Now this village is very important. This is currently the diplomatic center of Starlight City. Not sure why everyone's out. Go to bed. This is a pretty significant trading outpost for me. Holy. It is also generated right on the chunk border of the post 1.7 generation. So looking out, that is the western tip of Quintropolis Island. So that army of clerics that I mentioned earlier, it does exist. It's just all the way out here in this village. That is all that we have to show for the moment out in this area, but this will be central to my interests later on. Q4 also does not yet exist, but I have already paved it all the way out to the portal. Loveland is a mushroom island biome, the first one that I discovered in this world, and it will be developed in the future. Next to that, we have Q5, which has a couple things we need to look at. Starting here with Enderquin HQ, this is not far at all. You could actually walk here pretty easily. If there's one part of this world that I just don't like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it's Enderquin HQ. I originally had big plans for this base. I was gonna turn it into a massive castle, sort of stylized after the end, but that's what I ended up doing over at Starlight Castle. So my original vision for this place dissipated pretty quickly. So frankly, there's not a lot to look at here. It's almost a survivalist outpost at the moment, but it has one key function, which is to house the end portal. If you go down this long stairwell, you're going to be greeted with a mob farm. There's a little mob farm up there. This mob farm's a little different because it does account for spiders as well as witches, so it sorts all those drops. And then we just have a couple basic micro level farms here, nothing crazy at all. This is not exactly eye candy either, but this is right above the end portal, and in here we have a couple Elder Guardians, which I captured from the monument where Aftermath now sits. I never killed them, but I transported them here. One of them died though, so that Karma Duct in the back does not have an Elder Guardian within it. There's nothing actually to see in the end dimension, and just as a disclaimer for you guys, entering the end is going to be a massive spoiler for a lot of the events of Season 3, and especially the finale of Season 3 of our storyline here. And I would recommend not even approaching that portal at all if you are unfamiliar with the storyline, but you would like to dive into it. I would just avoid the end entirely at this world, because again, there's not anything to see there. The main attraction for Q5, I would say, is actually the Witherquin Soul Seeker. So to get there, you're going to hop into this. This is not far at all. This is going to dive underneath the lava lake, and we're there. This is one of the newest projects in Quintropolis. It is a wither skeleton farm, gold farm, blaze farm, coal farm, pretty much an all-in-one nether mob farm. It is here, and you can see that all of the terrain around us is completely slabbed. There is nowhere that anything can spawn once you are inside the farm. You can see there is a huge focus on decoration. This farm took a very long time to build. I would say I worked on it over the course of months. To turn on the farm, we're gonna head up this pathway into a little chamber here. Pop in here, and you're gonna turn this on. And this is going to start the slime block movers. There are 5 different levels there where all of the different mobs are going to spawn, and the slime block movers move them all into this chamber. So they're going to start falling down here pretty fast. Here they come. You just kill these guys. Those drops are rapidly picked up, and they are sent around an ice rink, and they are collected by the respective hopper that matches the drop. This is probably the fastest and most powerful farm in Quintropolis, and it's also completely update safe. In the event that I update this world past 1.15, this farm is still going to work, even if the gold farm will not, and even if the blaze farm will not. I actually don't need either of those farms anymore because I mostly just use this. Also, before you leave, you need to make sure to turn off the farm, because if you don't, then the slime block movers will break if you leave the chunks and they're still moving. So you need to make sure you turn it off first. This warning is there to remind you of that. That really just leaves one more highway to show you, and that's going to be Q6, which takes us to the Sanctuary. Oops. The Sanctuary is a reformed village located in Rainbow Cliffs, which is that savanna biome that's located northeast of Quintropolis Island. What you'll notice is that there is a large red wall completely surrounding it, and that is because it is an enclave completely protected from the outside world. This is a brand new project for the world, so at the moment, there's not a ton of development inside the wall. At the inside, we have some lecterns with some information, and you can see the central village. This was originally a village that generated back in version 1.7, but after updating the game to 1.15, it no longer worked as a village. So what I did was I completely tore it down and rebuilt it with a much nicer aesthetic, and added some job posts to give the villagers new jobs, and it now works as a village once more. If you head down here, you can see the sanctuary wall there, and then in the distance we have Milestone Mountain, and you can see this is a giant savanna plateau that was also generated back in 1.7. It's very old. I discovered it back in 2013. And it now houses a very important monument at the top here, which we're just going to take a quick peek at. Here it is here. This is the Enderquin monument, and there's some information here if you're interested with the rainbow beacon on top. This mountain is going to be developed into a historical parkour course. And what do I mean by that? Well, I can actually show you the beginnings of that project right down here. As stated at the beginning of this world tour, I don't have a Let's Play series, but rather I tell the story of the world's progress through a literary account on the forums. Well, I wanted to have a way to bring that into the world itself, and that's exactly what Milestone Mountain is going to be. The first 300 sessions of the journal, comprising the first 3 seasons, are going to be chronicled through an interactive parkour course that will also double as kind of a history museum as well. It's going to be full of lecterns, which give you some information about that era of the world's history. Much of the course itself will be built in a style that reflects that particular session or collection of sessions. So for example, here in session 23 back in 2013, I was just building the 3rd floor of the original cobblestone box that Starlight Castle used to be. So the style of this section of the parkour course is going to reflect what I did in that session. So with Milestone Mountain and the Sanctuary both ripe for further development, Rainbow Cliffs is going to be a very important location for Quintropolis moving forward. But for right now, that's all we have here, guys, and in fact, that is the end of the World Tour. If you've made it this far in the World Tour, I thank you very much for taking an interest in my world. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon, so I highly recommend following the Quintropolis journal linked in the description, and make sure to subscribe for future videos that may come from the Quintropolis world. This way you will be able to follow all of the world updates in real time. And when you guys download the world, you are going to start right here. This is the Quintropolis Welcome Center. You're going to be given a book with some release notes. There's some very important notes in this book that you're going to want to read through first thing when you download the world, so it gives you a little bit of idea of what to expect. The first thing you need to know before you download the world is that you have to play it in Minecraft version 1.15.2, and I cannot reiterate this enough. Quintropolis has never been opened in a newer version, and furthermore, I cannot guarantee that everything will work as intended in any version newer than this. In fact, it's more likely that I would guarantee the opposite, which is that some things will not work. Additionally, due to all the new underground terrain that would generate in post 1.18, the world's performance, especially at Starlight headquarters, would worsen even more than it already is. Thankfully, in Java Edition, it's very easy to just create a new profile in the launcher and set that to 1.15.2, and you will be ready to go to open this world and play. And that's about it. As always, I recommend checking the forums for any updates that I may make for the world download and the world itself. Thank you guys so much for watching this world tour. I hope you have enjoyed seeing Quintropolis, and if you do give the world a download, let me know your thoughts on the courses and various different activities that I have put together for your entertainment. It's been an amazing 10 years building this world from the ground up, and where I'm at right now is exactly where I've always wanted to be with this world, because I now have the infrastructure and the resources to sustain any kind of project that I want. And I have so many new ideas for new types of parkour courses and games and all kinds of different builds that I can now do on a much larger scale than I could ever have done before. So this is a really good time for Quintropolis, and I'm excited to see the world continue to flourish for another 10 years. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.